Before maps were drawn, before kings were crowned, before the first stone was laid upon another stone to build what we call civilization, there were rituals. Not the ceremonies we know today, but something deeper, something that reached into the very fabric of existence itself. These were not mere traditions passed down through generations. They were keys to doors we have long forgotten how to open. Tonight, we walk through the mist of time, not as conquerors of knowledge, but as quiet witnesses to mysteries that science cannot explain and perhaps was never meant to. Let us begin slowly. In the misty fields of Brittany, where the Atlantic winds carry the salt of ancient seas, over 3,000 standing stones rise from the earth like silent sentinels. They stretch across the landscape in perfect alignment, their weathered faces, bearing witness to ceremonies we can only imagine. You walk among these megalithic guardians as dawn breaks slowly over the French countryside, your footsteps muffled by the dew-heavy grass that has grown at their base for millennia. The stones of Carnac are not random. They are not scattered. They form precise rows that extend for miles across the Breton landscape, each stone carefully placed, each alignment deliberately chosen. Some stand as tall as a grown person, others tower above like granite giants reaching toward the sky. Their surfaces are rough with age, carved by wind and rain into textures that seem almost organic, as if they had grown from the earth rather than been placed there by human hands. Archaeological science offers theories about these stones. They speak of Neolithic peoples, of burial grounds and astronomical markers, of a civilization that flourished here 5,000 years ago. But standing among them, you feel something deeper than academic explanation can reach. These stones pulse with a presence that speaks not to the mind, but to something far older within us, that part of our being that remembers when the world was young, and mystery was not something to be solved, but something to be lived. The morning mist clings to the weathered granite, creating shapes that shift and dance in the growing light. Local legends speak of the stones as petrified soldiers, frozen in time by ancient magic. Others say they are the remains of a great serpent turned to stone, its body stretching across the landscape in eternal sleep. But you sense that the truth is both simpler and more profound than any legend dares to tell. Walk between the rows of stones and you feel the weight of intention. Each placement was deliberate, each stone a word in a sentence written across the landscape in a language we have forgotten how to read. The stones create corridors of energy, pathways that channel something more subtle than wind or water. Dowsers claim their instruments spin wildly here, detecting forces that conventional science cannot measure or explain. The silence among the stones is not empty, but full of whispered prayers in languages that have no living speakers, full of footsteps from ceremonies that ended before Rome was founded, full of intentions so profound they seem to have soaked into the very granite itself. You place your hand against one of the larger stones and feel the faintest vibration, as if the earth beneath was singing in frequencies too low for human ears to hear. As the sun climbs higher, the shadows between the stones shorten and shift, revealing new alignments, new relationships between the megaliths that were invisible in the dawn light. The stones seem to converse with each other across the centuries, their positions creating geometric patterns that speak of mathematical knowledge and astronomical understanding that challenges everything we think we know about Neolithic peoples. Modern surveys have revealed that the stone rows align with celestial events, the rising of certain stars, the positions of the moon at significant points in its cycle, the moments when day and night balance in perfect equilibrium. But knowing this does not diminish the mystery, it deepens it. How did ancient peoples, working without modern instruments, achieve such precision? What drove them to move stones weighing many tons across the landscape with tools of wood and rope and human determination? The stones remember. They hold within their crystalline structure the echo of every ritual performed in their presence, every prayer offered beneath their silent gaze. They have watched civilizations rise and fall, have felt the footsteps of Romans and Vikings, of medieval pilgrims and modern tourists, but their original purpose remains locked within them like secrets written in a code we have yet to decipher. As you prepare to leave the stone field of Carnac, the mist begins to lift, revealing the full scope of the megalithic complex. Row after row of stones stretch toward the horizon, each one placed with purpose, each one part of a grand design that encompasses not just this field, but the entire landscape. The stones of Carnac are not monuments to human achievement, but invitations to human remembering. Reminders that there are ways of knowing that exist beyond the reach of modern science, mysteries that can only be approached with the quiet reverence of an open heart. The prairie wind carries whispers across the Great Plains of North America, where stone circles known as medicine wheels have stood for thousands of years like flowers made of granite, blooming from the earth itself. You stand at the center of one such wheel, feeling the vastness of the sky above and the solid presence of the earth below, while all around you carefully placed stones create a pattern that mirrors the movements of the celestial sphere. These are not the massive megaliths of Europe, but something more subtle, more intimate in scale. The stones are often no larger than a person could lift, yet they are arranged with a precision that speaks of profound understanding. From the center of the wheel, lines of stones radiate outward like the spokes of a great wheel, while others form circles within circles, creating patterns that seem to pulse with meaning just beyond the edge of comprehension. The medicine wheel you stand within is one of hundreds scattered across the plains from Saskatchewan to Wyoming, each one unique, yet following the same essential pattern. 28 spokes radiate from the central cairn, each representing one of the days in the lunar month. The outer circle is broken by openings that align with the rising and setting points of significant stars, creating a calendar written in stone that has marked the passage of time for millennia. Archaeological dating places some of these wheels at over 4,000 years old, making them among the oldest astronomical instruments on the continent. But the indigenous peoples who still consider them sacred speak of ages far more ancient, of a time when the boundary between earth and sky was not the rigid separation we perceive today, but a permeable membrane through which wisdom flowed freely, in both directions. You walk slowly around the circumference of the wheel, feeling how each step takes you through a different relationship with the surrounding landscape. From some positions, distant mountains align with the stone markers in ways that create natural sighting lines to celestial events. From others, the wheel seems to embrace the entire horizon, making you feel as though you stand at the center, not just of this stone circle, but of the entire universe. The precision of these alignments challenges our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient peoples. Without telescopes or mechanical instruments, how did the builders of these wheels achieve such accuracy? Modern astronomers using sophisticated equipment have confirmed that the wheels align with the heliacal rising of important stars, with the solstices and equinoxes with the complex patterns of lunar standstills that occur only once every 18.6 years. But accuracy alone does not explain the profound sense of peace that settles over visitors to these sites. There is something in the geometry of the medicine wheels that seems to harmonize human consciousness with the rhythms of the cosmos. Indigenous traditions speak of the wheels as places of healing, of vision-seeking, of communication with the spirit world. They describe ceremonies conducted within the stone circles that could bring rain in times of drought, healing in times of sickness, guidance in times of confusion. The morning sun rises exactly through one of the wheel's stone gateways, its light flooding across the prairie grass in a golden wave that seems to awaken the entire landscape. For a few moments, the wheel becomes not just a collection of stones, but a living instrument, its shadows and alignments creating a celestial clock that marks not just the time of day, but the time of year, the phase of the moon, the position of important stars in their eternal dance across the night sky. As you sit quietly in the center of the wheel, the wind brings with it the sound of distant bird calls, the rustle of prairie grass, the almost inaudible whisper of air moving around the stones. But beneath these natural sounds, there seems to be something else, a deeper rhythm, a pulse that might be the heartbeat of the earth itself, or the echo of ceremonies conducted here across countless generations. The stones themselves bear witness to the passage of time. Their surfaces are carved with lichen that grows in patterns that seem almost intentional, creating natural mandalas that shift and change with the seasons. Some stones show the marks of ancient fires, evidence of ceremonies that brought people together in this sacred space to participate in rituals whose meanings we can only guess at. Indigenous elders speak of the medicine wheels as places where the ancestors still gather, where the spirits of the land maintain their eternal vigil, where those who know how to listen can still hear the ancient teachings carried on the prairie wind. They describe the wheels not as monuments to the dead past, but as living connections to a wisdom that transcends the boundaries of time and culture. The afternoon light begins to slant across the wheel, creating new shadows, revealing new alignments. The stones that seemed randomly placed in the morning light now show their true purpose as markers in a vast celestial calendar. Each stone casts its shadow at precisely the right moment to mark the passage of the seasons, the cycling of the moon, the return of important stars to their appointed places in the sky. As evening approaches, you prepare to leave the medicine wheel, but the experience of standing at its center has changed something fundamental in your perception. You have felt, however briefly, what it might have been like to live in a world where earth and sky were not separate realms, but parts of a single, integrated cosmos. You have stood in a place where ancient peoples conducted ceremonies that acknowledged their intimate connection to the movements of the heavens, where the placement of stones created a bridge between human consciousness and the infinite mystery of the star-filled night. The wheel continues its silent meditation on the prairie, its stones holding their positions with the patience of geological time, waiting for the next dawn, the next season, the next generation of seekers who will come to stand in its center and remember what it means to be part of something larger than themselves. Deep in the mountains of Azerbaijan, in the sacred caves of India, across the wind-swept plateaus of Iran, fires burn that have never been extinguished. These are not the controlled flames of human invention, but something far more mysterious, fires that emerged from the earth itself and have continued burning for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years without human intervention, without fuel that can be seen or measured, without explanation that satisfies the rational mind. You sit in the warm glow of one such eternal flame, watching as the fire dances with a life of its own, its colors shifting from deep gold to brilliant blue to the purest white, each hue appearing and disappearing according to rhythms that seem connected to something far beyond the chemistry of combustion. The warmth touches your face with gentle fingers, and you understand why ancient peoples believed these flames were the breath of gods made visible, the sacred essence of the earth itself rising up to meet the sky. The flame before you burns in, a natural amphitheater of rock, its base hidden in a crevice that disappears into the darkness of the Earth's interior. According to the geological surveys, natural gas seeping from deep underground feeds these fires, creating the phenomenon that science can measure and categorize but cannot fully explain. The gas seeps are real, the chemical composition of the flames is understood, but the mystery lies not in what feeds the fire, but in how it maintains its perfect consistency, how it never spreads beyond its appointed boundaries, how it seems to respond to the presence and intentions of those who come to sit in its light. For over 1,000 years, pilgrims have journeyed to this flame, adding their prayers to the endless dance of light and heat. They speak of healings that occurred in the fire's presence, of visions that came to those who meditated in its glow, of guidance received from the dancing flames when human wisdom proved insufficient for life's challenges. The rock around the fire bears the smooth polish of countless hands that have touched its surface, seeking connection with the mystery that burns at its heart. The fire burns without consuming. Unlike ordinary flames that devour their fuel and die, these eternal fires seem to exist in a state of perfect balance, taking exactly what they need from the Earth's hidden stores while giving back light and warmth in endless abundance. The flames rise and fall with the breathing of the Earth itself, growing brighter at certain times of day, certain phases of the moon, certain seasons of the year, as if responding to cosmic rhythms that regulate all life. You watch as other visitors approach the flame, each bringing their own hopes and sorrows to lay before this ancient altar. Some sit in silence, their faces lit by the flickering light, their eyes reflecting depths that seem to mirror the fire's own mystery. Others whisper prayers in languages you cannot understand, but the sound of their voices blends with the soft roar of the flames to create a harmony that touches something deeper than language can reach. The flame has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, has provided light and warmth through countless winters, has been the focal point for ceremonies that stretch back to the very beginnings of human religious experience. Zoroastrians consider such fires sacred manifestations of Ahura, Mazda, the source of all light and goodness. Hindus see in them the presence of Agni, the fire god who carries human offerings to the divine realm. But the flames themselves seem to transcend all particular religious interpretations, offering their gifts to anyone who approaches with respect and genuine seeking. As night falls, the eternal flame becomes even more magnificent, its light painting the surrounding rocks with warm colors that seem to pulse with life. The darkness beyond the fire's reach is absolute, making the flame appear to float in space like a star that has descended to Earth. The contrast between light and darkness creates a natural temple, a sacred space that exists wherever the flame's influence reaches. Modern instruments can measure the temperature of these flames, can analyze their spectral signatures, can map the underground networks that supply their fuel. But the instruments cannot measure the peace that settles over those who sit in their presence, cannot analyze the transformation that occurs in human consciousness when it encounters mystery that refuses to be reduced to mere explanation, cannot map the territories of the heart that open when the rational mind finally admits its limitations. The eternal flames burn in places that have been considered sacred since the earliest days of human civilization. They mark locations where the boundary between the seen and unseen worlds grows thin, where the ordinary rules of cause and effect seem to bend in the presence of something greater. The flames are teachers without words, masters of a wisdom that can only be transmitted through direct experience, through the simple act of sitting quietly in their presence and allowing their ancient knowledge to work its slow transformation on human understanding. As you prepare to leave the eternal flame, you carry with you the memory of its warmth, the image of its dancing light, the sense of having been in the presence of something both completely natural and utterly miraculous. The flame continues its eternal dance as it has for centuries, as it will for centuries to come, offering its light to all who seek it, maintaining its vigil at the boundary between earth and heaven, between the known and the unknowable, between the questions we can answer and the mysteries that answer us. In hidden valleys and forgotten groves where the busy world fades to whispers, and the only sounds are the gentle music of flowing water and the soft rustle of leaves, springs bubble up from depths that geology cannot fathom. These are not ordinary water sources, but sacred fountains that have flowed with crystal-clear water for thousands of years, their origins mysterious, their properties defying scientific explanation, their presence transforming ordinary landscapes into sanctuaries of the divine. You kneel beside one such spring, cupping the impossibly pure water in your hands, feeling its strange warmth even in the depths of winter. The water rises from somewhere far below, following paths through rock and earth that no instrument has been able to trace, emerging at the surface with a clarity and purity that seems almost supernatural. The taste is unlike any water you have ever encountered, not just clean, but somehow alive, carrying flavors that speak of deep earth and ancient stone, of minerals and elements that exist nowhere else in such perfect combination. The spring emerges from a pool lined with stones that appear to have been placed with intention, though no record exists of who might have arranged them or when. The water bubbles up from the center of the pool with a gentle but persistent force, creating ripples that catch and reflect the light filtering through the canopy above. Around the pool's edge, offerings left by countless pilgrims over the centuries create a museum of human devotion. Coins and flowers, small stones and pieces of jewelry, tokens of gratitude and symbols of hope. Scientific analysis of the water reveals nothing extraordinary in its chemical composition. It contains the same minerals found in ordinary groundwater, the same pH levels, the same molecular structure that characterizes H2O everywhere. Yet those who drink from the spring report experiences that transcend chemistry, feelings of profound peace, sensations of healing and renewal, moments of clarity that arrive like gifts from some benevolent source beyond the reach of laboratory instruments. The spring flows at a rate that never varies, neither increasing with heavy rains nor decreasing during the driest droughts. Hydrological surveys have attempted to map its source, following underground streams and aquifers in search of the reservoir that feeds this perpetual flow, but the water seems to emerge from depths that exist beyond the reach of conventional geological understanding, rising from sources that might be connected to the Earth's deepest mysteries rather than its surface watersheds. Throughout history, sacred springs have been recognized as places of power and healing. Celtic druids built stone circles around them, believing the water to be tears of the earth goddess made manifest. Roman engineers constructed elaborate bathhouses over sacred springs, creating temples where the healing waters could be honored, and their gifts shared with all who sought them. Early Christians often built their churches near sacred springs, incorporating the ancient recognition of these sites' special properties into their new understanding of the divine. You walk slowly around the perimeter of the spring, noting how the vegetation grows differently here than in the surrounding forest. The plants are more vibrant, their colors more intense, their growth patterns suggesting access to nutrients that exist nowhere else in the ecosystem. ancient trees lean toward the water as if drawn by forces more subtle than simple botanical. Tropism, their roots extending into the moist earth around the spring's edge with what appears to be reverent reaching. Local legends speak of the spring's origins in terms that blend history with mythology. Some say it first appeared when a saint struck the ground with his staff, calling forth water to serve the needs of travelers and pilgrims. Others claim it has flowed since the beginning of time, marking one of the spots where the divine first touched the earth and left a permanent sign of its presence. But perhaps the most telling stories are those that speak of the spring's ability to reflect not just physical images, but the true nature of those who gaze into its depths. The water itself seems to possess a quality that transcends its physical properties. It catches and holds light in ways that create depth and clarity beyond what mere transparency should allow. Looking into the spring is like peering through a window into another world, one where the usual laws of optics bend to accommodate visions that exist beyond the spectrum of ordinary sight. Pilgrims speak of seeing faces in the water, ancestors, guides, aspects of themselves they had never recognized, appearing and dissolving like dreams that refuse to be forgotten. As afternoon light filters through the trees above, the spring takes on new dimensions of beauty. The water sparkles with an inner radiance that seems independent of the sunlight, as if the spring itself were a source of illumination rather than merely a reflector of external light. The sound of the flowing water creates a natural music, a gentle symphony that serves as accompaniment to the profound peace that settles over all who spend time in this sacred place. The spring flows toward a stream that disappears into the forest, carrying its mysterious properties downstream to water plants and animals that have never known ordinary water. The entire ecosystem around the spring seems touched by whatever force gives the water its special qualities, creating a zone of enhanced life that extends far beyond the spring's immediate vicinity. Birds gather here in unusual numbers, their songs more melodious than those heard elsewhere. Flowers bloom out of season, their petals carrying fragrances that seem to contain messages from other realms. As evening approaches and the light begins to fade, the spring takes on an even more mystical quality. The water continues its eternal flow, unmarked by the passage of time, untouched by the changes that affect all other aspects of the natural world. It flows as it has always flowed, offering its gifts to any who approach with respect and genuine need, maintaining its vigil as a living link between the surface world of ordinary experience and the deep sources of life that exist far below, the reach of human understanding. You leave the sacred spring with empty hands but a full heart, carrying within you the memory of water that seemed to flow not just from underground sources but from the very heart of the earth's compassion. The spring continues its eternal offering, as it has for countless generations, as it will for countless generations to come, a testament to the reality of forces that exist beyond the boundaries of scientific measurement, a reminder that the world still holds mysteries that can only be approached with the humble recognition that some truths are meant to be experienced rather than explained. High above the ancient city of Cusco, where the Andes pierce the sky and the air grows thin with altitude and age, stands one of the most enigmatic architectural achievements in human history. The massive stone walls of Sacsayhuamán rise from the mountain slopes like the work of giants, their enormous blocks fitted together with such precision that not even a blade of grass can slip between the joints. Yet they were shaped and placed without mortar, without modern tools, without machinery capable of moving stones that weigh more than 100 tons. You run your fingers along one of these seamless joints, feeling the perfect marriage of stone to stone, the achievement that modern engineering struggles to comprehend, let alone replicate. The surfaces are so smooth, the fit so exact, that it seems the stones flowed into place like liquid before hardening into their eternal positions. There are no gaps, no rough edges, no signs of the tremendous effort that moving such massive blocks would have required. The stones simply are, as if they had always been there, as if the mountain itself had been convinced to take this form through some ancient persuasion that we have forgotten how to speak. Each stone is unique, cut and shaped to fit perfectly, with its neighbors in configurations that follow no geometric pattern recognizable to modern architects. Some blocks are rectangular, others polygonal, with 12 or more sides, each angle calculated to distribute weight and stress in ways that have allowed the walls to survive earthquakes that destroyed later Spanish colonial buildings constructed with conventional techniques. The irregular but perfect fitting creates a visual rhythm that is both complex and harmonious, like a stone symphony frozen in time. The largest stones in the wall weigh an estimated 200 tons, massive blocks of limestone and diorite that had to be quarried from sites miles away and transported across difficult terrain before being lifted into their current positions. Modern construction equipment would struggle with such a task, yet, according to conventional archaeology, these walls were built by people working with bronze tools, rope, and human labor. The mathematical precision required to calculate the shapes and angles, the engineering knowledge needed to transport and position such massive blocks, the organizational skills necessary to coordinate such a massive undertaking, all point to capabilities that far exceed what we assume about Inca civilization. But the Inca themselves claimed they did not build these walls. According to their own oral traditions passed down through generations of royal descendants, Sacsayhuamán was already ancient when their empire arose. They spoke of it as the work of the previous civilization, those who came before and possessed knowledge that had been lost by the time the Inca established their dominion over the Andes. The stones, they said, had been placed by those who knew the secret of making rock soft, who could command stone to flow like water and harden like metal. As you walk along the base of the walls, you begin to appreciate the true scope of this achievement. The fortification extends for more than 1,000 feet across the hilltop, its zigzag pattern creating multiple defensive positions while following the natural contours of the terrain. But calling it a fortress may miss its true purpose entirely. The precision of the construction, the astronomical alignments built into its orientation, the sacred significance of its location, all suggest that Sacsayhuamán served functions far beyond military defense. The stones show evidence of having been worked in ways that conventional tools cannot explain. Some surfaces bear marks that appear to have been made by instruments that could cut stone as easily as wood, creating edges and angles with mathematical precision that surpasses modern capabilities. Other stones show signs of having been subjected to heat so intense it altered their crystalline structure, yet there are no burn marks, no evidence of the fires that would have been necessary to achieve such temperatures using conventional methods. Local legends speak of the stones being softened by the application of plant extracts, jungle substances that could temporarily alter the molecular structure of rock, making it malleable enough to be shaped by hand before returning to its original hardness. Spanish chroniclers recorded similar stories describing how indigenous workers could make stone as soft as clay by applying the juice of certain plants, though the specific knowledge of which plants and how they were prepared was lost when the Spanish conquest destroyed the indigenous knowledge systems. The precision of the stonework at Sacsayhuamán has inspired modern experiments in replication, all of which have failed to achieve similar results. Engineers working with the most advanced tools and techniques have been unable to create joints as tight or surfaces as smooth. the stones of Sacsayhuamán represent a level of mastery over matter that suggests either technologies we have lost or understanding of natural forces that we have never possessed. As afternoon shadows begin to creep across the ancient walls, the stones take on new dimensions of mystery. The changing light reveals subtle textures and patterns in the rock surfaces, variations in color and composition that suggest the builders understood not just the mechanical properties of stone, but its aesthetic possibilities as well. The walls are not just functional, but beautiful, not just engineered, but artistic, created by minds that saw no separation between utility and beauty, between technical achievement and spiritual expression. The walls of Sacsayhuamán align with astronomical events, their angles and orientations marking the positions of important stars and the movements of celestial bodies. The entire complex serves as a massive astronomical instrument, its stone surfaces calibrated to track the passage of time according to cosmic rather than human schedules. This suggests that the builders understood the relationship between earthly construction and heavenly movements, that they built not just for human purposes, but as participants in a cosmic architecture that encompasses both earth and sky. Standing before these ancient walls as sunset approaches, you feel the weight of a mystery that transcends simple questions of construction technique. Sacsayhuamán represents evidence of capabilities that challenge our understanding of human potential, of what can be achieved when mind and matter work in harmony according to principles we no longer understand. The stones continue to hold their positions with geological patience, testimony to knowledge that was once common but is now lost, achievement that was once possible but now seems miraculous. The walls of Sacsayhuamán stand as more than archaeological curiosities. They are invitations to expand our conception of what human beings are capable of achieving, reminders that the past may hold technologies and wisdom that surpass our current understanding. As night falls over the ancient stones, they continue their silent vigil, holding their secrets within their perfectly fitted joints, waiting for a time when humanity might once again remember how to work with matter as partners rather than conquerors, how to build not just for the needs of the moment but for the requirements of eternity. In the heart of New Delhi, rising like a dark finger pointing toward the sky, stands a monument that defies every law of chemistry and metallurgy known to modern science. The Iron Pillar of Delhi has stood for over 16 centuries, its surface, unmarked by rust, its form unbowed by time, its very existence a challenge to everything we think we understand about the behavior of iron in contact with oxygen and moisture. You circle this impossible monument, watching as rain beads and rolls away from its surface, never leaving the stain of oxidation that should have claimed it within decades of its creation. The pillar rises 23 feet above ground, its surface smooth and dark, bearing inscriptions in Sanskrit that speak of King Chandragupta Vikramaditya and victories achieved in distant lands. But the true victory represented by this pillar is not military but metallurgical, the triumph of ancient knowledge that produced iron of such purity and composition that today's most advanced foundries cannot replicate it. The metal contains phosphorus in concentrations that would normally make iron brittle and unusable, yet here that same phosphorus has created a protective coating that preserves the pillar against the very forces that destroy ordinary iron. Modern metallurgical analysis reveals iron of 99.72% purity, with trace elements arranged in patterns that suggest manufacturing techniques unknown to contemporary science. The pillar was not cast but forged, hammer-welded from smaller pieces of iron that were joined with such skill that no seams remain visible, no weak points exist where corrosion could begin its destructive work. The surface shows tool marks that indicate the use of instruments capable of working iron with precision that rivals modern machining, yet the pillar was created at a time when conventional history tells us such tools did not exist. The inscriptions on the pillar speak not just of earthly kings but of cosmic forces, of alignments with celestial bodies and connections to powers that transcend ordinary political authority. The text describes the king as one who conquered enemies, not just on earth, but in the heavens, suggesting that the pillar's creation was tied to astronomical events and spiritual achievements that go far beyond conventional monument making. The pillar stands not just as a memorial to human accomplishment, but as a testament to the integration of spiritual and material knowledge. You place your hand against the pillar's surface, feeling the coolness of metal that has absorbed the wisdom of 16 centuries without yielding to their destructive power. The iron feels different from modern metal, denser somehow, more solid, as if its molecular structure were organized according to principles that create stability beyond what ordinary metallurgy can achieve. There is a sense of completion about the pillar, of perfection achieved through understanding that penetrated to the very essence of matter itself. The location of the pillar adds another layer to its mystery. It stands on a site that has been considered sacred for thousands of years, first as part of an ancient sun temple, later incorporated into the mosque complex that surrounds it today. The pillar's position aligns with astronomical features, its shadow falling in precise patterns that mark significant moments in the solar year. This suggests that its creators understood not just the metallurgical secrets of ironworking, but the cosmic forces that govern the movements of celestial bodies. Environmental tests conducted around the pillar reveal atmospheric conditions that should accelerate corrosion rather than prevent it. The humidity levels, temperature variations, and chemical composition of Delhi's air create conditions that destroy ordinary iron within years of exposure. Yet the pillar continues to stand, its surface showing no signs of the rust that consumes conventional iron structures. The protective coating that preserves it appears to be not just chemically stable, but self-renewing, maintaining its integrity through processes that remain completely mysterious to modern materials science. The pillar has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, has stood through invasions and earthquakes, through monsoons and droughts, through all the political and natural upheavals that have shaped the Indian subcontinent over the past 16 centuries. Armies have marched past it, buildings have been constructed and destroyed around it, the very landscape has been transformed, yet the pillar remains exactly as it was created, unchanged and unchanging, a constant in a world of constant change. Local traditions speak of the pillar's creator as more than a skilled metallurgist, as an alchemist who understood the secret correspondences between earthly metals and celestial forces, who could imbue matter with properties that transcended its ordinary limitations. The legends describe techniques for purifying iron that involved not just fire and hammer, but prayers and incantations, timing the work according to the positions of planets and stars, treating the creation of the pillar as a spiritual as well. As a physical undertaking, the mystery of the pillar extends beyond its resistance to corrosion to encompass its very creation. Moving and erecting a 7-ton column of iron would challenge modern construction equipment, yet the pillar was raised at a time when such equipment did not exist. The precision of its placement, the astronomical accuracy of its orientation, the perfection of its vertical alignment all point to capabilities that seem impossible given the supposed technological limitations of the time period. As evening approaches and the lights of modern Delhi begin to twinkle around the ancient pillar, the contrast between past and present becomes even more striking. The pillar stands as proof that the ancients possessed knowledge and capabilities that we have lost, that progress is not always linear, that wisdom can be forgotten as well as discovered. In an age of planned obsolescence and disposable technology, the pillar represents an approach to creation that aimed not just for function, but for permanence, not just for utility, but for transcendence. The Iron Pillar of Delhi continues its silent testimony to the reality of lost knowledge, standing as an invitation to expand our understanding of what human beings are capable of achieving when they work in harmony with natural forces rather than in opposition to them. Its unmarked surface reflects the lights of the modern city while maintaining the integrity given to it by its ancient creators, a bridge between past and present that reminds us that some achievements transcend the limitations of their historical moment to become eternal statements of human potential. Beneath the surface of the familiar world, invisible lines of force crisscross the planet like the meridians of a vast cosmic acupuncture system, connecting sacred sites separated by thousands of miles in geometric patterns that speak of an ancient understanding of Earth's subtle energies. These ley lines, as they have come to be known, trace pathways across continents with mathematical precision that suggests careful planning on a scale that encompasses the entire globe, linking stone circles and ancient temples, holy wells and sacred groves in alignments that cannot be explained by coincidence alone. You walk along one such invisible pathway, feeling the strange pull that dowsers claim to sense with their divining rods, passing by monuments and sacred sites that align with geometric precision across landscapes that seem otherwise random. The experience is subtle at first, a slight tingling in the soles of your feet, a sense of walking along a current of energy that flows just beneath the threshold of ordinary perception. But as you continue along the line, pausing at each sacred site it connects, the sensation grows stronger, more defined, until you begin to understand why ancient peoples might have considered these pathways sacred highways between the seen and unseen worlds. The concept of ley lines emerged in the 1920s when amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins noticed that ancient sites in the English countryside aligned in straight lines across the landscape. What began as an observation about the practical routes used by ancient peoples gradually revealed itself to be something far more mysterious, a network of alignments that connected sites with no apparent historical relationship, spanning distances that would have required sophisticated surveying techniques to achieve. Modern surveys using satellite mapping and GPS technology have confirmed that these alignments exist with mathematical precision that defies explanation through conventional archaeology. Stone circles in Scotland align perfectly with ancient burial mounds in Wales, which in turn connect to sacred springs in Ireland and Neolithic temples in England, creating geometric patterns that span hundreds of miles with accuracy that rivals modern surveying techniques. The lines follow paths that seem to ignore geographical obstacles, running straight across valleys and mountains, rivers and forests, as if the ancient planners worked from maps that showed not just the physical landscape, but the energetic patterns that underlie it. Where ley lines intersect, ancient peoples consistently placed their most important sacred sites. Stonehenge sits at the convergence of multiple ley lines, as do Glastonbury Tor, Avebury, and dozens of other major monuments that have drawn pilgrims and seekers for thousands of years. Walking along these invisible pathways, you begin to notice patterns in the landscape that become visible only when viewed from the perspective of the ley line system. Natural features, hills and valleys, streams and rock formations seem to participate in the geometric design, as if the ancient planners understood how to work with the Earth's natural energies rather than imposing artificial patterns upon them. The ley lines reveal themselves as expressions of a deeper order that encompasses both human intention and natural form. Dowsers working along ley lines report consistent readings of electromagnetic anomalies, underground watercourses, and mineral deposits that follow the same straight-line patterns marked by ancient monuments. Their instruments detect forces that conventional science acknowledges but cannot fully explain: variations in the Earth's magnetic field, concentrations of natural radioactivity, zones where the normal flow of underground water changes direction or intensity. The correlation between these measurable phenomena and the placement of ancient sacred sites suggests that the builders of stone circles and temples possessed knowledge of Earth energies that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The ley line network extends far beyond the British Isles where it was first recognized. Similar alignments connect sacred sites across Europe, linking Gothic cathedrals that were often built on the foundations of earlier pagan temples, creating a Christian overlay on a much older pattern of sacred geography. In the Americas, Native American sacred sites align along straight pathways that cross tribal boundaries and span continental distances. The Nazca lines of Peru may be part of a South American ley line system, while the medicine wheels of the Great Plains mark intersection points in a network that encompasses most of North America. The precision of these global alignments suggests planning and coordination on a scale that challenges conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. How did separated cultures achieve such mathematical accuracy across vast distances? What knowledge allowed them to perceive and work with forces that remain largely invisible to modern science? The ley line system implies a level of global communication and cooperation among ancient civilizations that contradicts the assumption that they were isolated from each other by distance and technological limitations. As you continue walking along the invisible pathway, you pass through zones where the energy seems particularly concentrated. At these points, often marked by ancient stones or earthworks, sensitive individuals report experiences that transcend ordinary perception, moments of expanded awareness, visions that seem to come from outside normal consciousness, sensations of connection to something vast and intelligent that pervades the landscape itself. These experiences suggest that the ley lines function not just as energy pathways but as communication networks, carrying information in forms that can be perceived by human consciousness when it learns to attune itself to the Earth's subtle frequencies. The temples and monuments placed along ley lines seem designed to amplify and focus these natural energies. Stone circles act as resonating chambers that concentrate the Earth's subtle forces, while ancient burial mounds and sacred wells tap into underground streams of energy that flow along the invisible pathways. The entire system functions as a kind of planetary nervous system, with sacred sites serving as nodes where information and energy can be concentrated, transformed, and transmitted across vast distances. Modern attempts to map the complete ley line network reveal patterns of stunning complexity and beauty. The lines form geometric relationships that mirror patterns found in crystal structures, in the organization of living cells, in the distribution of galaxies across the universe. This suggests that the ancient builders understood principles of natural organization that operate at every scale of existence, from the microscopic to the cosmic, and incorporated this knowledge into their sacred geography. The ley lining system challenges the conventional view of ancient peoples as primitive and isolated, suggesting instead a sophisticated understanding of planetary energies and global communication networks that operated according to principles we are only beginning to rediscover. As night falls and you reach the end of your journey along the invisible pathway, you carry with you a new appreciation for the complexity and intelligence of ancient civilizations, and a sense of walking upon a living planet whose energy systems connect all sacred sites in a web of meaning that spans the globe. In the steaming jungles of Central America, where howler monkeys announce the dawn and parrots flash through the green cathedral of the rainforest canopy, the Maya created calendars of such astronomical accuracy that they surpass our modern calculations. Their stone monuments rise from the jungle floor like mathematical prayers carved in limestone, each temple and pyramid encoding knowledge of celestial mechanics that required understanding of cosmic forces that the Maya supposedly never possessed. You stand in the shadow of the Great Pyramid at Chichen Itza, watching as the spring equinox creates one of the most spectacular demonstrations of astronomical precision ever achieved in stone. As the sun reaches the exact moment of celestial balance, when day and night divide the world equally between light and darkness, the play of shadow and light on the pyramid's carefully calculated steps creates the illusion of a giant serpent, descending from the sky to touch the earth, its undulating body formed by the interaction of solar angles and architectural precision. This is no accident of construction, but the result of mathematical calculations that required knowledge of the Earth's orbital mechanics, the precise tilt of its axis, and the complex relationships between solar and terrestrial cycles. The pyramid functions as a massive calendar carved in stone, its every angle and proportion calibrated to mark the passage of time according to cosmic rather than human schedules. The serpent's annual descent represents the integration of astronomical knowledge with spiritual understanding, the marriage of precise science with profound mythology. The Maya tracked time using multiple interlocking calendars that measured cycles within cycles with precision that staggers modern astronomers. Their sacred calendar of 260 days interwove with their solar calendar of 365 days to create a larger cycle of 52 years, which in turn nested within even grander cycles that encompassed millions of years. But beyond these relatively comprehensible time-keeping systems, the Maya calculated what they called the long count, a calendar capable of tracking time periods so vast they encompass the entire history of the universe as they understood it. Their astronomical observations achieved accuracy that was not matched by European science until the invention of modern telescopes. The Maya calculated the length of the solar year as 365.22420 days, a figure that differs from our modern calculation by only 2/10,000ths of a day. Their measurements of the lunar month, the cycles of Venus, and the movements of other planets achieved similar precision, requiring centuries of careful observation and mathematical analysis conducted without optical instruments or mechanical calculating devices. The Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving Mayan books to escape the Spanish destruction of indigenous libraries, contains astronomical tables that predict eclipses and planetary conjunctions thousands of years into the future. The calculations are so precise that modern astronomers use them to check their own computer-generated predictions, finding the ancient Mayan calculations to be more accurate than many contemporary efforts. This suggests not just careful observation, but theoretical understanding of celestial mechanics that rivals modern astrophysics. You walk through the ruins of Palenque, where the Temple of Inscriptions houses astronomical calculations carved in stone that demonstrate the Maya's sophisticated understanding of precession, the slow wobble of the Earth's axis that causes the positions of stars to shift gradually over periods of thousands of years. The Maya not only recognized this extremely subtle astronomical phenomenon, but incorporated it into their calendrical calculations, creating timekeeping systems that remained accurate across geological time periods. The precision of Mayan astronomy becomes even more remarkable when considered in the context of their jungle environment. Dense tropical vegetation blocks most of the sky from ground-level observation, yet somehow the Maya achieved astronomical accuracy that required clear views of celestial events throughout the year. This suggests either sophisticated observation, techniques that overcame environmental obstacles, or knowledge sources that transcended direct observation entirely. The Mayan understanding of time differed fundamentally from our linear conception. They viewed time as cyclical, with patterns that repeated at multiple scales simultaneously. This cyclical understanding allowed them to make predictions not just about astronomical events, but about historical patterns, seeing connections between celestial cycles and human affairs that enabled them to prophesy political and social developments with uncanny accuracy. The famous Mayan prophecy regarding the year 2012 represented not an end-of-world prediction, but a recognition of the completion of a massive calendrical cycle, the end of one cosmic age and the beginning of another. The precision with which they calculated this transition point, accurate to within a single day over a period of more than 5,000 years, demonstrates mathematical capabilities that challenge every assumption about pre-Columbian American civilizations. At Uxmal, the governor's palace aligns with the southernmost position of Venus, demonstrating the Maya's sophisticated understanding of that planet's complex orbital patterns. Venus served as a crucial component in Mayan timekeeping, its 584-day synodic period woven into calendrical calculations that coordinated earthly activities with cosmic rhythms. The palace functions as a giant Venus tracking instrument, its architectural alignments enabling precise observations of the planet's movements throughout its 8-year cycle. The caracol at Chichen Itza, often called the observatory, contains windows and passages aligned with the movements of Venus, Mars, and other planets, enabling astronomers to track celestial bodies with precision that rivals modern observatories. The building's circular design and carefully positioned openings create a three-dimensional astronomical instrument that demonstrates sophisticated understanding of both observational astronomy and architectural engineering. Mayan cities themselves were laid out according to astronomical principles, their streets and plazas oriented to capture the light of significant stars and planets at crucial moments in their cycles. The urban planning reflected cosmic organization, creating earthly mirrors of celestial patterns that integrated daily human activities with the grand rhythms of the universe. Living in such cities meant participating in a cosmic order that connected every aspect of human existence with the movements of celestial bodies. The collapse of Mayan civilization remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, but their astronomical legacy survived in the calendrical knowledge preserved by indigenous communities throughout Central America. Modern Maya daykeepers continue to use the ancient calendars, maintaining an unbroken tradition of timekeeping that spans more than 2 millennia. Their knowledge confirms the accuracy of the ancient calculations and demonstrates the practical utility of astronomical understanding that integrates cosmic cycles with human needs. As you prepare to leave the jungle ruins where Mayan astronomers once conducted their precise observations, the sounds of the tropical night create a symphony that seems to echo the cosmic harmonies the Maya detected in the movements of the planets and stars. Their achievements represent more than scientific accomplishment. They demonstrate a way of understanding human existence that recognizes our fundamental connection to cosmic processes, our participation in rhythms that encompass scales from the daily rotation of the Earth to the vast cycles that govern the evolution of the universe itself. Carved from solid limestone 5,000 years ago, descending into the Earth like a stone womb that predates the pyramids of Egypt, the Hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni on the Mediterranean island of Malta represents one of the most mysterious achievements of Neolithic architecture. You descend into this underground temple through passages that seem to wind deeper into the Earth's embrace, each chamber opening into the next like rooms in a house designed for inhabitants who understood secrets of acoustics and consciousness that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The underground complex consists of 3 levels carved entirely from the living rock, their smooth walls and perfectly curved chambers shaped by tools and techniques that leave no trace of their passing. The limestone surfaces flow like frozen liquid, their organic curves suggesting not the harsh angles of conventional architecture, but the gentle forms of natural caves enhanced by human intention. Yet every curve serves a purpose. Every chamber resonates with specific frequencies that seem designed to alter human consciousness in ways that transcend ordinary architectural achievement. In the oracle chamber, the most acoustically sophisticated room in the complex, you experience the phenomenon that has mystified visitors for thousands of years. When you speak in a normal voice, your words seem to disappear into the stone walls, absorbed by the chamber's unique geometry. But when you lower your voice to a specific frequency, around 110 Hz, the entire chamber comes alive with resonance. Your words transformed into sounds that seem to emerge from everywhere and nowhere, filling the space with harmonics that penetrate not just the ears, but the entire body. Modern acoustic analysis has revealed that this frequency corresponds to patterns of brain wave activity associated with deep meditation, trance states, and enhanced creativity. The ancient builders of the Hypogeum somehow understood that specific sound frequencies could induce altered states of consciousness, and they shaped their underground temple to optimize these effects. The oracle chamber functions as a prehistoric sound laboratory, its limestone walls precisely carved to create resonance patterns that affect human neurology in measurable ways. The chamber's acoustic properties seem impossible to achieve through accidental construction. The curves of the walls, the height of the ceiling, the dimensions of the floor space all work together to create a resonating system that amplifies certain frequencies while dampening others. The effect is so precise that slight changes in voice pitch can completely alter the chamber's response, suggesting that the builders possessed sophisticated understanding of wave mechanics and acoustic engineering. You move through the complex's 3 levels, each designed for different purposes and producing different acoustic effects. The upper level, closest to the surface, contains chambers with normal acoustic properties suitable for everyday activities. The middle level houses the oracle chamber and other rooms designed for ceremonial purposes, their acoustic properties carefully tuned to enhance ritual activities. The deepest level contains smaller chambers with intimate acoustic environments, spaces that seem designed for private meditation or individual spiritual practices. The walls throughout the complex bear traces of red ochre paint applied in patterns that may have enhanced the acoustic properties of the chambers or served symbolic purposes related to the temple's spiritual functions. The pigment appears most concentrated in areas where the acoustic effects are strongest, suggesting that the ancient builders understood connections between visual and auditory elements in creating spaces designed to alter consciousness. Archaeological evidence indicates that the Hypogeum served as both temple and burial site, with human remains found throughout the complex, suggesting that death and spiritual transformation were understood as related processes. The acoustic properties that induce altered states of consciousness may have been intended to ease the transition between life and death, creating an environment where the boundaries between ordinary awareness and transcendent experience became permeable. The construction of the Hypogeum required the removal of approximately 2,000 tons of limestone, all carved and transported using Neolithic tools and techniques. The precision of the carving, particularly in the acoustically sophisticated chambers, suggests mastery of stoneworking that rivals the achievements of much later civilizations with supposedly superior technology. The smooth surfaces and complex curves indicate understanding of both the structural and acoustic properties of limestone that enabled the builders to create spaces with precisely designed, resonant characteristics. The complex's 3-level design mirrors patterns found in other ancient spiritual architectures, suggesting shared understanding of how physical spaces can facilitate different levels of consciousness. The progression from surface to depth corresponds to movement from ordinary awareness through ceremonial states to the profound altered consciousness associated with the deepest chambers. The Hypogeum functions as a three-dimensional mandala, its architectural form designed to guide visitors through increasingly profound spiritual experiences. Modern visitors to the Oracle Chamber report experiences that transcend the purely acoustic effects of the space. Many describe sensations of profound peace, moments of clarity that seem to arise from sources beyond ordinary thinking, and awareness of presence that suggests the chamber continues to fulfill its original spiritual functions. These experiences occur regardless of visitors' cultural backgrounds or spiritual beliefs, indicating that the chamber's effects operate at levels of human consciousness that transcend particular religious or philosophical frameworks. The discovery of the Hypogeum in 1902 revealed artifacts and human remains that suggest continuous use for thousands of years, from its Neolithic construction through the Bronze Age and beyond. The consistency of use indicates that successive cultures recognized and preserved the temple's special properties, maintaining traditions of ritual and ceremony that honored the acoustic mysteries embodied in its carved chambers. As you prepare to leave the underground temple, ascending from its depths back toward the surface world, you carry with you the memory of sounds that seem to emerge from the earth itself, of acoustic environments that demonstrated the sophisticated understanding possessed by humanity's ancient architects. The Hypogeum continues its silent testimony to the reality of prehistoric knowledge that integrated spiritual wisdom with precise technical achievement, creating spaces where the boundaries between matter and consciousness reveal themselves as far more permeable than modern science generally acknowledges. The limestone chambers wait in their patient darkness, ready to transform voice into revelation for any who enter with respect for the mysteries they preserve, maintaining their acoustic vigil as bridges between the world of ordinary experience and the deeper realities that ancient peoples understood as the true foundation of human existence. In the heart of the Giza Plateau, where desert sands whisper ancient secrets to the wind, stands humanity's most enigmatic monument. The Great Pyramid of Khufu rises from the earth like a geometric prayer, its limestone blocks arranged with mathematical precision that still confounds modern engineers. But it is not the pyramid's external grandeur that holds the deepest mystery. It is what lies within, in chambers that seem designed not just to house the dead, but to transform the living. You enter through the narrow ascending passage, feeling the weight of 2.5 million stone blocks pressing down from above. The air grows thick with anticipation as you make your way toward the king's chamber, that granite sanctuary at the pyramid's heart. Here, in this room of perfect proportions, something extraordinary awaits, something that ancient builders embedded into the very fabric of the structure itself. The granite walls begin to hum, not with any sound you can hear, but with vibrations that seem to emerge from the stone itself, frequencies that resonate through your bones and into the deepest chambers of your consciousness. Modern acoustic analysis has confirmed what sensitive visitors have reported for centuries. The king's chamber resonates at a frequency of precisely 110 Hz, the same frequency that matches the Earth's own magnetic heartbeat, the Schumann resonant, that pulses through our planet's atmosphere like a cosmic drum. This is not coincidence. The ancient architects who designed this chamber understood something about sound, about resonance, about the way certain frequencies can alter human consciousness. When you lie down in the granite sarcophagus, not a tomb perhaps, but a resonating chamber, the vibrations seem to synchronize with your own biorhythms. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing deepens, the boundary between self and stone begins to dissolve. The pyramid's passages align with stellar coordinates, creating a three-dimensional map of the heavens frozen in limestone and granite. The descending passage points toward the star Thuban, which served as the pole star when the pyramid was built. The ascending passage aligns with Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, sacred to the ancient Egyptians as the herald of the Nile's flood. Every angle, every measurement, every proportion speaks of builders who saw the pyramid not as a static monument, but as a dynamic instrument designed to connect earth and sky. In the Queen's chamber, acoustical experiments reveal another mystery. The room resonates at frequencies that create standing wave patterns, invisible geometric forms that hang in the air like blueprints made of sound. When these frequencies are mapped, they reveal the same proportions found in the pyramid's external geometry, as if the entire structure is designed to manifest physical space from pure vibration. Modern physics tells us that all matter is vibration, that the apparent solidity of stone and flesh is merely energy, slowed to a frequency we can perceive as solid. The pyramid builders seem to have understood this principle, creating a structure that operates at the intersection between matter and energy, between the physical and the metaphysical. The strange effects reported by visitors throughout history take on new meaning in this context. The altered states of consciousness, the vivid dreams, the sense of timelessness that descends in the pyramid's chambers, these are not mystical fantasies, but measurable responses to precisely engineered acoustic environments. The pyramid functions as a vast resonating chamber, a stone instrument designed to tune human consciousness to frequencies that reveal hidden dimensions of reality. As you rest in the king's chamber's granite embrace, feeling the ancient vibrations pulse through your body, you understand that this monument was never just a tomb. It was a laboratory, a temple, a machine for transformation, built by people who understood principles of consciousness that our modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The pyramid stands as proof that our ancestors possessed knowledge we have yet to recover, wisdom encoded in stone that still functions after 4,500 years of wind and sand and time. The resonance continues, steady as a heartbeat, patient as stone, carrying its message across the millennia to those who know how to listen. In the vast expanse of Siberian permafrost, where winter stretches across the landscape like an endless meditation on stillness, the earth holds secrets frozen in time. Here, in burial mounds scattered across the steppes, ice has performed the warp of ultimate preservation, keeping ancient peoples and their possessions as fresh as if they had died yesterday instead of 2,500 years ago. You stand at the edge of one such excavation, watching as archaeologists carefully expose what the ice has guarded through millennia of seasons. The Scythian woman they call the Ice Maiden emerges from her frozen grave like a messenger from another world, her skin still soft, her elaborate tattoos as vivid as the day they were carved into her flesh with soot and plant dyes. But it is not just her remarkable preservation that challenges our understanding of the ancient world. It is the sophistication of everything found with her, textiles of impossible complexity, metalwork of stunning artistry, and burial goods that speak of a civilization far more advanced than the nomadic horse riders of popular imagination. Her felt coat tells a story written in wool and silk, Chinese silk obtained along trade routes that supposedly did not exist at that time. Felt worked with techniques so complex that modern craftspeople struggled to replicate them, patterns that incorporate astronomical symbols representing constellations, with an accuracy that suggests detailed knowledge of celestial mechanics. This was not the garment of a simple nomad, but of someone who moved in a world of international trade, advanced mathematics, and sophisticated artistic traditions. These tattoos covering her body form a map more detailed than any ancient document. Spirals that mirror galaxy formations flow along her arms, geometric patterns that match the golden ratio wind around her wrists. Animals rendered with anatomical precision that would not be out of place in a modern field guide populate her shoulders and back. Each tattoo was applied with tools of bronze and gold, suggesting a ritualistic process that transformed the body into a living manuscript. Her burial chamber reveals even more mysteries. The permafrost has preserved not just organic materials but entire ecosystems, seeds from plants that no longer grow in the region, insects from climates that suggest the Siberian steppes were once far warmer, pollen from flowers that modern botanists cannot identify. The ice has captured a complete environmental record, showing us a world that was dramatically different from the one we know. The other burials in the region tell similar stories. Warriors buried with weapons of meteorite, iron. Shamans accompanied by drums made from woods that don't grow within 1,000 miles of their graves. Artists interred with pigments sourced from corners of the ancient world, suggesting contact networks that spanned continents. Each frozen grave reveals a piece of a vast puzzle, showing us glimpses of a Bronze Age world that was far more connected, far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. Most intriguing are the astronomical instruments found in these burials: bronze mirrors polished to telescopic precision, stone calendars accurate to within minutes, star charts that show knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that takes 26,000 years to complete one cycle. These nomads tracked celestial movements with an accuracy that rivals modern astronomy, encoding their observations in artifacts designed to last millennia. The ice has preserved their final moments as well. Analysis of their stomach contents reveals their last meals: mare's milk mixed with cannabis, herbs that grew only in distant mountains, seeds from plants sacred to shamanic traditions. These were not random foods, but carefully chosen substances that suggest their deaths were part of elaborate rituals, preparations for journeys into realms beyond the physical world. Carbon dating reveals another mystery. Many of these burials cluster around specific dates, moments when astronomical events created rare celestial alignments, solar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, moments when the shamans believed the boundary between worlds grew thin. The Ice Maidens and their companions seem to have chosen their deaths, timing their departures to coincide with cosmic events that would ease their passage to the spirit realm. As you look down at the Ice Maiden's peaceful face, still bearing traces of the ochre and gold paint applied for her final journey, you realize that the permafrost has done more than preserve ancient bodies. It has preserved an entire worldview, a way of understanding reality that saw death not as an ending, but as a transformation, a stepping from one state of existence into another. The cold has kept their secrets intact, waiting for us to develop the wisdom to understand what they were trying to tell us about the true nature of time, consciousness, and the hidden connections that bind all things together in patterns too vast for ordinary perception to grasp. In the rolling hills of Ireland's Boyne Valley, where morning mist clings to ancient grass and time seems to move differently than in the outer world, stands a monument that predates both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. Newgrange rises from the earth like a great stone breast, its white quartz facade gleaming against the green landscape, its secrets hidden within a darkness that has waited 5,000 years for the perfect moment of illumination. You approach the entrance passage just before dawn on the winter solstice, feeling the weight of intention that has been building toward this moment for an entire year. The narrow opening in the monument's base seems insignificant, barely large enough for a single person to crawl through, but it has been positioned with astronomical precision that rivals modern engineering. For 17 minutes each year, and only for 17 minutes, this passage serves as a lens that focuses the solstice sunrise into pure revelation. The darkness inside is complete, absolute, the kind of darkness that existed before the first star kindled in the cosmic void. You make your way along the stone corridor, feeling the massive corbelled roof arching overhead, each stone carefully positioned to bear the weight of the great mound without mortar or metal support. The walls are covered with spirals, diamonds, and serpentine patterns carved by artists who worked in firelight 5 millennia ago, their meanings lost to time, but their power still palpable in the stone. At the passage's end lies the central chamber, a cruciform space where 3 stone basins wait like altars prepared for a ceremony that has continued without interruption since before the pyramids were built. Here, in this womb of worked stone, the Neolithic builders created something that transcends mere architecture, a machine for capturing light, for transforming darkness into illumination, for marking the moment when the year's descent into winter. Darkness begins its turn back toward the light. The roof box above the entrance opens toward the southeast, aligned with surgical precision to catch the first rays of the solstice sun as it crests the horizon. Modern surveys confirm that this alignment has remained accurate throughout the monument's entire existence, despite the Earth's axial precession that slowly shifts all celestial coordinates across the centuries. The builders somehow accounted for this drift, creating an alignment that has functioned perfectly for 50 centuries. As the sun rises on this shortest day of the year, its light penetrates the roof box and begins its journey down the passage. The beam moves like a golden serpent through the darkness, growing brighter as the sun climbs higher, until finally it illuminates the central chamber in a burst of amber radiance that seems to set the carved walls aflame. The triple spiral on. The back wall catches the light and throws it back in patterns that dance across the chamber like living things. For 17 minutes, the chamber blazes with solstice light. Then, as the sun continues its arc across the sky, the beam begins to retreat, withdrawing along the passage until darkness reclaims the chamber for another year. The ritual is complete, as it has been completed every winter solstice for 5,000 years, a conversation between human intention and cosmic precision that continues without fail. The emotional impact of this moment overwhelms scientific explanation. Modern visitors report profound experiences in the chamber, visions, insights, a sense of connection to something far larger than individual consciousness. The light seems to carry more than photons. It carries meaning, purpose, the accumulated power of 5 millennia of human reverence for the return of light in the world's darkest hour. Archaeological evidence suggests that Newgrange was more than a tomb. The cremated remains found within represent only a tiny fraction of the burials that would be expected for a conventional cemetery. Instead, the monument seems to have served as a temple, a place where the living came to commune with the ancestors, to witness the annual miracle of the sun's return, to participate in rituals that connected the cycles of human life with the greater rhythms of the cosmos. The spirals carved throughout the monument take on deeper meaning in this context. They mirror the spiral arms of galaxies, the golden ratio that appears throughout nature, the labyrinthine paths that mystics have always used to represent the journey from outer consciousness to inner truth. The builders of Newgrange understood that light and consciousness are intimately connected, that the annual return of the sun mirrors the eternal return of awareness from the depths of unknowing. As you emerge from the passage back into ordinary daylight, you carry with you the knowledge that Newgrange represents something unprecedented in human history. The first architectural prayer, the first building, designed not for shelter or defense, but for pure spiritual purpose. Here, our Neolithic ancestors created a structure that functions as a bridge between earth and sky, between human time and cosmic time, between the world of the everyday and the realm of the eternal. The light continues its journey, as it has for 5,000 years, carrying its message of renewal and return to all who know how to read the language written in stone and shadow and the precise dance of earth and sun. In the vast Pacific, where ocean meets sky in an endless blue embrace, Easter Island rises from the depths like a forgotten fragment of another world. Here, nearly 900 stone giants stand sentinel across the landscape, their faces turned toward the interior of the island, their backs to the infinite sea. For centuries, these moai have been seen as silent guardians, mysterious statues whose purpose died with the civilization that carved them. But recent discoveries reveal that these monuments were never meant to be silent at all. You stand among these ancient figures in the early morning light, feeling the trade winds sweep across the grassland, and suddenly you hear it, a low, resonant hum that seems to emerge from the stone itself. The moai are singing, their hollow bodies serving as resonating chambers that transform the Pacific wind into haunting melodies that carry across the island like voices from the spirit realm. The discovery came accidentally when acoustic researchers, studying the island's unique soundscape, noticed that certain wind conditions produced musical tones from the statues. Further investigation revealed that the moai are not solid monoliths, as long believed, but carefully engineered acoustic instruments. Their bodies contain hollow chambers and passages that channel airflow in specific patterns, creating resonant frequencies that the Rapa Nui people called the voices of the ancestors. Each statue produces different tones depending on wind speed, direction, and atmospheric pressure. During certain weather patterns, the entire island becomes a vast stone orchestra with hundreds of moai harmonizing in complex musical arrangements that can be heard for miles. The ancient inhabitants understood these songs, reading in the messages about weather changes, seasonal shifts, and the approach of storms from across the Pacific. The acoustic engineering required to create these effects represents a sophisticated understanding of sound, resonance, and atmospheric dynamics. The moai's proportions follow mathematical ratios that optimize their resonant properties. Their positioning across the island creates acoustic relationships, with some statues serving as primary singers while others provide harmonic accompaniment. The entire landscape becomes a musical instrument of incredible complexity, designed to transform natural forces into audible communication. But the songs serve purposes beyond mere communication. The frequencies produced by the moai correspond to brainwave patterns associated with altered states of consciousness. Extended exposure to these tones induces the same meditative states that shamans and mystics have sought throughout history. The island becomes a natural temple, where the wind itself conducts ceremonies that transport listeners beyond ordinary awareness. The Rapa Nui people understood this effect, designing their rituals around the moai's songs. During the annual Tangata, Manu ceremony, competitors would gather around specific statues, listening to their tones for guidance and spiritual preparation. The songs were believed to carry the wisdom of the ancestors, offering advice and prophecy to those who knew how to interpret their meanings. Modern analysis of the moai's construction reveals additional mysteries. The red scoria stone used for the statue's top knots contains iron compounds that create unique magnetic properties. When the wind passes through the hollow chambers, it creates not just sound but also electromagnetic fields that can be measured with sensitive instruments. The entire island becomes a generator of subtle energies that interact with the human nervous system in ways that conventional science is only beginning to understand. The quarry at Rano Raraku, where most of the moai were carved shows evidence of acoustic planning on a massive scale. The partially buried statues there are positioned to create complex echo patterns, transforming the quarry into a natural amphitheater where the songs of individual moai blend and harmonize. Workers carving new statues would have labored to a soundtrack of stone music, their rhythm synchronized with the voices of the ancestors. The island's oral traditions preserve memory of the moai's true purpose. The Rapa Nui elders speak of times when the statues would sing warnings of approaching disasters, their voices changing tone and tempo to alert the population to tsunamis, volcanic activity, or severe storms. The statues served as an early warning system, reading atmospheric and seismic conditions through their acoustic responses and translating this information into audible alerts. Archaeological evidence supports these traditions. The moai are positioned to maximize their acoustic coverage of populated areas, ensuring that their songs could be heard throughout the island's settlements. Some statues were deliberately oriented to catch prevailing winds, while others were angled to respond to unusual weather patterns that would signal environmental threats. The decline of Easter Island's civilization takes on new meaning in this acoustic context. As deforestation reduced the island's ability to support a large population, knowledge of the moai's songs began to fade. The surviving population could no longer maintain the complex relationships between statues, wind patterns, and seasonal cycles that had made the acoustic system functional. The songs continued, but their meanings were lost, leaving future generations to see the moai as silent monuments rather than active communicators. Today, as you walk among these singing stones, you can still hear echoes of their original purpose. When conditions are right, when the wind strikes them at precise angles, the moai remember their songs. Their voices rise from the stone like whispers from a lost world, carrying messages in a language we have forgotten how to speak. The songs speak of a time when human civilization lived in harmony with natural forces, when art and engineering served spiritual purposes, when the boundary between the animate and inanimate dissolved in the presence of properly attuned consciousness. Moai continue their eternal vigil, their faces turned toward the island's interior, where their creators once lived, their voices rising and falling with the Pacific wind, singing songs that bridge the gap between stone and spirit, between the world of form and the realm of pure sound that underlies all manifestation. In the high desert of the American Southwest, where red rock canyons hold the memory of ancient seas and time moves like honey through stone, the ancestors left messages carved deep into the desert varnish. These petroglyphs cover cliff faces. Throughout the region, like pages from a book written in stone, their symbols reaching across centuries to speak of knowledge that challenges our understanding of what ancient peoples could know and predict. You trace your finger along one such carving, feeling the patient work of an artist who pecked away the dark patina to reveal the lighter sandstone beneath. The spiral pattern beneath your touch mirrors formations that modern astronomy has identified in distant galaxies, raising questions about how people without telescopes could have known the universe's grand design. Around this central spiral, other symbols cluster like attendants around a cosmic court: stars, crescents, geometric patterns that seem to map relationships between Earth and sky. The petroglyphs of the Southwest are not random artistic expressions but carefully planned, astronomical records created by people who observed the heavens with an accuracy that rivals modern measurements. At sites throughout Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, rock art panels serve as star charts, calendars, and prediction systems that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. At the famous Sun Dagger site in Chaco Canyon, a petroglyph, spiral, is positioned behind carefully placed stone slabs that cast shadows in precise patterns throughout the year. During the summer solstice, a dagger of light bisects the spiral perfectly. At the winter solstice, two daggers of light frame the spiral's edges. During the equinoxes, a smaller dagger pierces the spiral's center. This natural light show, precisely calibrated to track the sun's annual journey, functioned as a cosmic clock that enabled the ancestral Puebloans to predict seasonal changes, plan agricultural activities, and schedule ceremonies with perfect timing. But the petroglyphs record more than just seasonal cycles. Some panels appear to document rare astronomical events, supernovas, comets, planetary alignments that occur only once in many lifetimes. The famous star petroglyph in Arizona's petrified forest may represent the supernova of 1054 CE, visible in daylight for weeks and bright enough to cast shadows at night. The symbol's placement near a crescent moon matches Chinese records of the supernova's position relative to lunar phases, suggesting that Native American observers were tracking the same cosmic event recorded by astronomers on the other side of the world. Even more intriguing are petroglyphs that seem to predict future astronomical events. Panels at several sites contain symbols that correspond to planetary alignments that had not yet occurred when the petroglyphs were carved. These prophecy stones suggest that ancient astronomers had developed mathematical models capable of calculating celestial positions far into the future, a feat that required understanding of orbital mechanics that Western science did not achieve until the Renaissance. The spiral patterns that appear throughout southwestern rock art take on deeper meaning when viewed through this astronomical lens. These spirals mirror the golden ratio found throughout nature, from nautilus shells to galaxy formations. But they also represent the concept of cyclical time central to Native American worldviews, the understanding that celestial events repeat in vast cycles, that what has happened before will happen again, that the future can be read in the patterns of the past. At sites like Newspaper Rock in Utah, thousands of petroglyphs cluster together like pages from an ancient library. The symbols span thousands of years, with newer carvings added alongside older ones in a continuous record of human observation and interpretation of natural phenomena. The layering of symbols creates palimpsests of meaning, where astronomical observations from different eras overlap and interact to create increasingly complex records of celestial knowledge. Some petroglyphs appear to function as teaching tools, designed to transmit astronomical knowledge from one generation to the next. Complex panels show the relationships between solar and lunar cycles, the precession of equinoxes, and the movements of planets through the zodiacal constellations. These stone classrooms would have enabled master astronomers to educate apprentices in the subtle rhythms of the cosmos, ensuring that essential knowledge would survive even through periods of cultural disruption. The precision of these astronomical records becomes even more remarkable when we consider the tools available to their creators. Without metal instruments, optical devices, or written mathematics, ancient observers developed ways to measure celestial movements with accuracy measured in minutes of arc. They tracked the slow precession of the equinoxes, noted the 18.6-year cycle of lunar standstills, and predicted eclipses with reliability that made them seem like magicians to neighboring peoples. Modern archaeoastronomers studying these sites often find that their sophisticated instruments merely confirm observations already recorded in stone by ancient sky watchers. The petroglyphs serve as a humbling reminder that intelligence and dedication can achieve remarkable precision even without modern technology. These ancient astronomers may have lacked our instruments, but they possessed something equally valuable: patience, measured in generations, and the understanding that knowledge of cosmic cycles was worth preserving in permanent stone. As you stand before these carved messages from the past, watching shadows move across ancient symbols as the sun traces its daily path, you realize that the petroglyphs represent more than scientific observations. They embody in the high desert of the American Southwest, where red rock canyons hold the memory of ancient seas and time moves like honey through stone. The ancestors left messages carved deep into the desert varnish. These petroglyphs cover cliff faces. Throughout the region, like pages from a book written in stone, they're symbols reaching across centuries to speak of knowledge that challenges our understanding of what ancient peoples could know and predict. You trace your finger along one such carving, feeling the patient work of an artist who pecked away the dark patina to reveal the lighter sandstone beneath. The spiral pattern beneath your touch mirrors formations that modern astronomy has identified in distant galaxies. Beneath the clear blue waters off the coast of Japan, where the Pacific depths hold secrets older than recorded history, lies a monument that challenges everything we thought we knew about the timeline of human civilization. The Yonaguni monument, discovered in 1987 by diving instructor Kihachiro Aratake, rises from the seafloor like a message from a drowned world. Its carved steps and geometric passages, speaking of builders who worked stone when the ocean floor was dry land. You descend through 60 feet of blue-green water, your breathing apparatus creating a steady rhythm that matches the slow pulse of the underwater world. Schools of tropical fish part before you like living curtains, revealing the massive structure that has sparked decades of controversy among archaeologists, geologists, and marine scientists. What you see defies easy explanation. Carved walls that rise in perfect terraces, stairways that lead to chambers now filled with seawater, platforms and passages that show clear evidence of human planning and execution. The monument stretches over 160 feet in length and rises nearly 80 feet from the seafloor, its surfaces bearing tool marks, right angles, and geometric patterns that nature rarely creates. Most striking are the stepped terraces that climb the structure's southern face, each level carved with precision that speaks of master stoneworkers who understood proportion, symmetry, and architectural planning. These are not natural formations, carved by ocean currents and erosion, but deliberate constructions that required sophisticated knowledge of engineering and design. Swimming through the monument's corridors, you encounter features that strengthen the case for human origin. Circular holes drilled into the rock with precision that suggests metal tools, drainage channels carved to direct water flow, stone basins that may have served ceremonial purposes when they stood above the waves. These details accumulate like evidence in an underwater courtroom, each one testifying to the presence of an advanced civilization working stone during the last ice age. The geological evidence is equally compelling. The monument bears no marine growth in its crevices and joints, suggesting that it was submerged relatively recently in geological terms. Core samples from the structure show that submersion occurred approximately 12,000 years ago, when massive glacial melting raised sea levels worldwide by over 400 feet. If the monument was carved before submersion, it represents architecture from a time when mainstream archaeology insists that humans were still hunter-gatherers incapable of monumental construction. Nearby discoveries add layers to the mystery. A series of smaller structures scattered across the seafloor show similar architectural features: stepped platforms, carved channels, and geometric patterns that suggest a complex of buildings rather than a single monument. Some researchers theorize that these underwater ruins represent the remains of Mu, the legendary Pacific civilization described in ancient texts throughout Asia and Polynesia. The monument's alignment with astronomical features adds another dimension to the mystery. The structure's main axis points toward significant celestial positions, suggesting that its builders incorporated astronomical knowledge into their architectural planning. Chambers within the monument frame specific stars and constellations, creating sight lines that may have served calendrical or ceremonial purposes when the structure stood above water. Marine archaeologists studying the site have identified tool marks that appear inconsistent with natural erosion patterns. Parallel grooves in the stone surface match marks left by metal tools, while the uniform angles and clean cuts throughout the structure suggest systematic quarrying and shaping. These marks are preserved beneath layers of marine sediment, protected from the erosion that would have obliterated them if they were naturally occurring features modified by ocean currents. The monument's construction technique reveals sophisticated understanding of stone working. Massive blocks were cut and fitted with precision joints that remain tight after millennia of underwater weathering. The builders used techniques similar to those found at other ancient megalithic sites worldwide: polygonal masonry, seamless joints, and weight distribution systems that have allowed the structure to survive intact despite the tremendous forces of ocean currents and seismic activity. Local traditions from nearby islands preserve oral histories that may relate to the submerged monument. Okinawan folklore speaks of ancient kingdoms that sank beneath the waves, of powerful rulers whose palaces were claimed by the rising sea. These stories, long dismissed as mythology, take on new significance in light of the underwater discoveries. They suggest that memory of the monument and its builders may have survived in cultural tradition long after the physical evidence disappeared beneath the waves. The implications of the Yonaguni monument extend far beyond archaeology into fundamental questions about human prehistory. If the structure was indeed carved by humans before the post-glacial flooding, it pushes back the timeline of monumental architecture by thousands of years. It suggests the existence of sophisticated civilizations during periods when conventional history places humanity in early stages of development. Critics argue that the monument's features could result from natural geological processes, that tectonic activity and erosion can create formations that mimic human construction. But supporters point to the accumulation of architectural details, the precise angles, the carved drainage systems, the tool marks preserved in stone, that together form a case for human origin that grows stronger with each dive, each measurement, each new discovery. As you surface from your underwater exploration, breaking through the boundary between the submerged past and the aerial present, you carry with you the profound questions raised by this drowned monument. Whether natural formation or human construction, the Yonaguni monument represents a mystery that challenges our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient peoples and the true timeline of human civilization. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but sometimes the tide of discovery reveals glimpses of truths that have waited millennia beneath the waves for eyes capable of seeing and minds willing to question the official narratives of human development. In the blue depths off Japan's coast, stone testimony waits for those brave enough to dive deep and surface with new questions about who we are and how long we have been builders of monuments that outlast the civilizations that created them. Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where green darkness swallows sound and time moves to the rhythm of falling rain, satellite technology has begun to reveal one of archaeology's greatest secrets. Beneath the emerald canopy that stretches from horizon to horizon, geometric patterns emerge in the data, earthworks, canal systems, and urban layouts that speak of civilizations capable of supporting millions of people in what we assumed was pristine wilderness. The Amazon, it turns out, was not an untouched garden, but a carefully managed landscape shaped by sophisticated societies that thrived for thousands of years before European contact. You stand on a raised platform deep in the Bolivian Amazon, looking out over what appears to be unbroken forest, but your eyes are now trained to see what the jungle has hidden. Here, beneath your feet, lies one of hundreds of geometric earthworks that dot the Amazon basin, perfectly circular, square, and octagonal formations that required moving millions of cubic meters of soil with nothing more than human labor and wooden tools. The scale of these constructions rivals the great earthworks of North America, yet they remained completely unknown to the outside world until satellite imagery began penetrating the forest canopy in the late 20th century. The earthworks represent just the beginning of what the jungle conceals. LIDAR technology, which uses laser pulses to map terrain beneath dense vegetation, has revealed urban complexes that housed populations larger than contemporary European cities. These Amazonian metropolises featured sophisticated urban planning, raised fields for agriculture, elaborate canal systems for transportation and flood control, and residential areas organized around central plazas that could accommodate thousands of people for ceremonies and trade gatherings. At the Monte Alegre site in Brazil, excavations have uncovered evidence of continuous human occupation spanning over 10,000 years. The archaeological layers reveal a progression from hunter-gatherer societies to complex urban civilizations that developed intensive agriculture, monumental architecture, and artistic traditions of remarkable sophistication. Cave paintings at the site depict not only local animals and daily life, but geometric patterns and astronomical symbols that suggest advanced mathematical and calendrical knowledge. The agricultural achievements of these Amazonian civilizations challenge fundamental assumptions about tropical farming. The raised field systems they created, known as camelones, turned vast areas of seasonally flooded land into productive agricultural zones capable of supporting dense populations. These fields were engineered with precision that rivals modern agricultural planning, carefully calculated heights and drainage systems that maintained optimal growing conditions despite the Amazon's extreme seasonal variations in water levels. Even more remarkable is the discovery of terra preta, or black earth, throughout the Amazon basin. This incredibly fertile soil was artificially created by ancient peoples through systematic composting, charcoal addition, and nutrient management that produced soil fertility far superior to the region's naturally poor soils. The process required detailed knowledge of soil chemistry, microbiology, and ecosystem management that modern agricultural science is still trying to understand and replicate. The canal systems that connected these lost cities represent engineering achievements of staggering scope. Networks of waterways stretching for hundreds of miles linked settlements throughout the basin, enabling trade, communication, and transportation on a continental scale. Some of these canals were carved through solid rock, others elevated on earthen causeways that crossed wetlands and rivers. The precision of their construction suggests surveying and engineering capabilities that rival modern civil engineering projects. Carbon dating of artifacts from these sites reveals occupation, periods that span millennia, with some settlements continuously inhabited for over 2,000 years. This longevity suggests social and political stability that allowed knowledge and technology to accumulate across generations, creating the foundation for the sophisticated societies that Spanish explorers encountered and described in their chronicles of the 16th century. Those Spanish accounts, long dismissed as exaggerations or fantasies, take on new credibility in light of recent discoveries. Conquistadors described cities with tens of thousands of inhabitants, sophisticated craft production, extensive trade networks, and political organizations that governed vast territories. They wrote of rivers lined with settlements, of cultivated landscapes that stretched to the horizon, of populations that dwarfed anything in Europe. Modern archaeology confirms that these descriptions, far from being exaggerated, may have actually understated the scale and sophistication of Amazonian civilizations. The artistic achievements preserved in these lost cities reveal aesthetic sensibilities of remarkable refinement. Ceramics from sites throughout the Amazon display technical mastery and artistic vision that rival the greatest pottery traditions worldwide. The geometric patterns, sophisticated glazes, and complex iconographic systems suggest societies that valued artistic expression and possessed the leisure time and specialized labor necessary to develop high art forms. Most intriguing are the astronomical alignments found at many Amazonian sites. Earthworks are oriented to track solstices, equinoxes, and the movements of specific stars and planets. Some complexes appear to function as massive calendrical instruments, enabling precise prediction of seasonal changes crucial for agricultural timing in the tropical environment. This astronomical knowledge was integrated into urban planning, with major structures and ceremonial spaces positioned to mark significant celestial events. The environmental management practices of these lost civilizations offer crucial lessons for modern conservation efforts. Rather than clearing forests for agriculture, Amazonian peoples developed agroforestry systems that increased rather than decreased biodiversity. They created forest gardens that mimicked natural ecosystems while producing food, medicine, and raw materials in sustainable abundance. The collapse of these civilizations following European contact represents one of history's greatest demographic catastrophes. Disease epidemics introduced by early explorers swept through populations that had no immunity to Old World pathogens, reducing populations by an estimated 90% within a century of first contact. The survivors retreated deeper into the forest, abandoning the great cities and engineered landscapes that had supported millions of people for millennia. As you walk through the recovering forest, seeing how quickly the jungle reclaims human constructions, you understand why these civilizations remained hidden for so long. The Amazon's rapid growth erases surface evidence within decades, creating the illusion of pristine wilderness where sophisticated societies once flourished. Only now, with satellite technology and advanced archaeological techniques, are we beginning to appreciate the true scale of human achievement in the world's largest rainforest. The lost cities of the Amazon stand as testimony to human adaptability and ingenuity, showing how complex civilizations can develop in environments previously thought incapable of supporting them. They remind us that the history of human achievement extends far beyond the conventional centers of ancient civilization, reaching into corners of the world where sophisticated societies flourished in harmony with their environments for thousands of years before vanishing into the green embrace of the forest that both nurtured and ultimately concealed them. High in the Andes Mountains, where condors ride the thermals between earth and sky, and morning mist clings to ancient stones like the breath of sleeping gods, Machu Picchu rises from its mountain ridge like a prayer made manifest in granite. But this wonder of the world holds secrets that extend far beyond its breathtaking beauty and mysterious abandonment. The terraces that climb the mountainside in perfect steps reveal themselves, under careful study, to be more than agricultural platforms. They are a three-dimensional map of the heavens, a stellar calculator built into the living rock of the Andes. You stand on the highest terrace as dawn breaks over the surrounding peaks, watching as the sun's first rays illuminate the carefully planned landscape below. Each level catches the light in sequence, creating a cascade of illumination that seems to flow down the mountainside like golden water. But this is not accident, it is precision. The terraces are positioned to mark specific solar events throughout the year. Their edges align to track the sun's movement with accuracy that rivals modern astronomical instruments. The genius of Machu Picchu's design becomes apparent when viewed from above, through the eyes of condors or the perspective of gods. The terraces do not simply follow the natural contours of the mountain, they reshape the landscape to mirror the constellation. of the Southern Cross, that brilliant stellar formation that dominates the southern sky and served as the cosmic axis for Andean peoples. Each terrace represents a star, each stone wall a line of celestial connection, the entire complex functioning as a massive stone representation of the heavens themselves. This astronomical connection runs deeper than mere representation. The Inca understood that the movements of celestial bodies were intimately connected to earthly cycles, the timing of planting and harvest, the arrival of rains, the migration patterns of animals, the ebb and flow of human life itself. By building Machu Picchu as a three-dimensional star map, they created a tool for reading the cosmos, for predicting the future, for maintaining harmony between the human world and the greater rhythms of the universe. The precision required to achieve this astronomical alignment staggers the modern mind. Without sophisticated surveying instruments, the Inca architects calculated angles, elevations, and sight lines with mathematical accuracy that would challenge contemporary engineers. They understood the relationship between terrestrial geometry and celestial mechanics, creating structures that function simultaneously as agricultural terraces, architectural marvels, and astronomical instruments. The famous Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu's heart serves as the focal point for these celestial observations. This carved granite outcrop, whose name means hitching post of the sun, casts shadows that track solar movements throughout the year with chronometer precision. During the winter solstice, the sun sits directly above the stone, casting no shadow at all, a moment of perfect balance between earth and sky that the Inca celebrated as the sun's return from its southern journey. But the Intihuatana reveals even more sophisticated astronomical knowledge. Its angles and faces are carved to track not only solar movements but lunar cycles, the rising and setting points of specific stars, and the precession of equinoxes across the centuries. It functions as a master clock for the entire complex, coordinating the various astronomical observations possible from different terraces and buildings throughout the site. The agricultural terraces themselves demonstrate understanding of microclimates and growing conditions that borders on the miraculous. Each level creates its own micro-environment, with temperature, humidity, and drainage precisely controlled to optimize growing conditions for different crops. The Inca grew over 3,000 varieties of potatoes at sites like Machu Picchu, each variety adapted to specific environmental conditions that the terraces were designed to create and maintain. This agricultural sophistication connects directly to the site's astronomical functions. The timing of planting and harvest for each terrace was determined by stellar observations, with different crops planted according to the rising of specific constellations. The terraces served as both calendar and garden, marking time through the physical process of cultivation while producing the food that sustained the complex's inhabitants. The water management system at Machu Picchu reveals another level of sophisticated planning. A series of fountains, channels, and drainage systems moves water through the site with precision that ensures each terrace receives optimal irrigation while preventing erosion and flooding. The system functions by gravity alone, requiring no pumps or external power sources, yet it has operated continuously for over 5 centuries with minimal maintenance. The fountains are positioned to catch specific stellar reflections during important astronomical events. During certain phases of the moon, specific fountains mirror celestial configurations in their still waters, creating additional opportunities for astronomical observation and ritual ceremony. The Inca understood that water serves as a mirror for the heavens, making the earthly realm a reflection of cosmic pattern. Recent archaeological work has revealed that Machu Picchu was connected to other Inca sites through sight lines that enabled long-distance astronomical observations. Signals could be transmitted across the Andes using polished metal mirrors, coordinating observations and ceremonies across the empire. The terraces at each site were positioned to facilitate these communications, creating a network of astronomical observation posts throughout the Inca realm. The abandonment of Machu Picchu around 1540 CE coincided with the Spanish conquest, but the site was never discovered by the conquistadors. Its inhabitants simply vanished, leaving behind their astronomical calculator, perfectly preserved for future generations to decode. The terraces continued to function, tracking celestial movements with unwavering precision, even after human observers were no longer present to read their messages. When Hiram Bingham rediscovered Machu Picchu in 1911, he found a site that was architecturally intact but botanically transformed. The jungle had begun reclaiming the terraces, yet the astronomical alignments remained perfect. Local peoples had maintained some knowledge of the site's celestial functions, continuing to use it for seasonal ceremonies timed to stellar observations, encoded in the ancient stonework. Modern archaeoastronomers studying Machu Picchu continue to discover new layers of astronomical sophistication. Computer models of ancient skies reveal that the site's designers accounted for long-term celestial changes, creating alignments that functioned accurately across centuries despite the gradual shift of stellar positions. They built not just for their own time, but for future generations who would inherit their cosmic calculator. As you watch the sun set behind the western peaks, casting the terraces into shadow that climb systematically from bottom to top, you witness the daily demonstration of Machu Picchu's astronomical precision. Each terrace disappears into darkness in sequence, marking the sun's daily journey across the sky in a display that has continued unchanged for over 500 years. The stones remember their celestial dance, performing it faithfully whether or not human eyes are present to witness their eternal conversation with the stars. Deep beneath the rolling hills of the Dordogne, where France's ancient landscape holds memories older than written words, lies a gallery that challenges everything we thought we knew about the minds of our Paleolithic ancestors. The caves of Lascaux, sealed by rockfall for 17,000 years until their accidental discovery in 1940, contain not merely the world's most beautiful prehistoric art, but what may be humanity's oldest astronomical records: star maps. Painted on stone walls by artists who saw the heavens with eyes unclouded by artificial light. You descend into the cave's natural cathedral, your lamp beam dancing across walls that serve as canvas for humanity's first observatory. The famous bulls, horses, and deer that made Lascaux famous leap from the limestone surfaces in colors still vivid after millennia of darkness. But look more carefully at the dots and lines scattered between these magnificent animals, and a deeper pattern emerges, one that transforms this underground gallery from an art museum into a planetarium where Ice Age artists recorded their observations of the night sky with precision that rivals modern astronomy. The breakthrough came when researchers began mapping the cave's mysterious dot patterns using computer models of the Paleolithic night sky. The seemingly random clusters of dots scattered throughout the cave correspond with startling accuracy to star patterns visible 17,000 years ago. The 3 dots above the shoulder of the Great Black Bull matched the belt stars of Orion. The cluster near the horse's muzzle maps onto the Pleiades. Line after line, dot after dot, the cave walls reveal themselves as a comprehensive star catalogue painted by people we assumed were capable only of hunting and gathering. But this is more than simple star mapping. The Lascaux artists understood stellar precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that causes star positions to shift over thousands of years. Their paintings account for this drift, showing star positions not as they appeared on any single night, but as they moved across the sky over generations of observation. This required mathematical sophistication and astronomical knowledge that pushes back the timeline of human scientific achievement by tens of thousands of years. The cave's famous shaft scene, long interpreted as a hunting disaster or shamanic vision, takes on new meaning when viewed through this astronomical lens. The bird-headed figure lying beneath the bison may represent the constellation of Cygnus, the swan, positioned below the celestial bull in the sky of 17,000 years ago. The mysterious staff-like object beside the figure corresponds to stellar alignments associated with seasonal hunting patterns, suggesting that the painting serves as both astronomical record and practical hunting calendar. The positioning of the paintings within the cave reveals additional levels of sophisticated planning. The artists used the natural contours of the limestone walls to create three-dimensional effects, making the animals appear to move in flickering torchlight. But they also positioned the astronomical markers at specific locations where they would align with cave openings to frame actual star observations. The cave becomes an instrument for viewing the night sky, with painted guides indicating what to look for and when to look for it. Recent analysis has revealed that the Lascaux artists possessed knowledge of lunar cycles, solar seasons, and planetary movements that equals or exceeds that of many historical civilizations. The cave paintings include markers for eclipse predictions, seasonal celebrations, and agricultural timing that demonstrate systematic observation of celestial phenomena across generations. These Ice Age astronomers created not just art, but a comprehensive scientific record designed to preserve essential knowledge across the uncertainties of prehistoric life. The technical skill required to create these astronomical records is staggering. The artists mixed pigments from minerals and organic compounds that would remain stable across millennia. They developed techniques for working in complete darkness, using stone lamps filled with animal fat to illuminate their work. Most remarkably, they created accurate perspective drawings and maintained consistent scale across the vast cave surfaces, skills that art historians once believed developed only with Renaissance techniques. The social implications of Lascaux's astronomical art are equally profound. The creation of such sophisticated star maps required communities of specialists, observers to track celestial movements, artists to record the observations, and teachers to pass the knowledge to future generations. This level of specialization suggests Ice Age societies far more complex and organized than the simple hunter-gatherer bands described in traditional prehistory. The cave paintings also reveal unexpected connections between European Ice Age peoples and astronomical traditions found worldwide. Star patterns emphasized at Lascaux appear in similar forms in Aboriginal Australian art, Native American petroglyphs, and African rock paintings, suggesting that certain astronomical observations were important enough to be independently discovered and recorded by peoples separated by vast distances and thousands of years. The symbolic integration of animals and stars in Lascaux's art suggests a worldview that saw no separation between earthly and celestial realms. The painted animals move through landscapes of stars, their earthly forms serving as vehicles for astronomical information. This integration of practical observation with spiritual meaning characterizes shamanic traditions found in hunter-gatherer societies worldwide, suggesting that the division between science and spirituality is a recent development in human consciousness. Modern archaeoastronomers continue to discover new layers of meaning in Lascaux's painted cosmos. Advanced imaging techniques reveal details invisible to earlier researchers: faint lines connecting star groups, subtle variations in pigment that may indicate temporal sequences, and overlay patterns that suggest the cave was used as an observatory for thousands of years before its final sealing. The preservation of Lascaux represents one of history's great accidents. The rockfall that sealed the cave created perfect conditions for preserving both the paintings and the cave's pristine atmosphere. When modern visitors first entered, they found not just ancient art, but an intact Paleolithic environment, complete with the footprints of the last artists to work there, and the charcoal remains of their torches as you prepare to leave this underground observatory. Turning away from walls that hold humanity's oldest scientific records, you carry with you a revolutionary understanding of human intellectual development. The cave painters of Lascaux were not primitive ancestors struggling to survive in a hostile world, but sophisticated observers who saw the cosmos with clarity and recorded their observations with skill that preserves their insights across 170 centuries. The stars they painted still shine overhead, following the same patterns that Ice Age astronomers tracked with such dedication. Their stellar maps remain accurate, their observations still valid, their artistic achievement still capable of inspiring wonder in all who witness their painted cosmos in the deep darkness where human consciousness first reached beyond the earth to touch the infinite patterns of the night sky. In the emerald landscapes of Ireland, across the wind-swept highlands of Scotland, and through the ancient valleys of Wales, stone circles stand as silent sentinels at places where the earth itself seems to pulse with invisible energy. These are not merely monuments to forgotten gods or primitive astronomical observatories. They are markers placed with deliberate precision at locations where the very fabric of our physical world reveals its deeper mysteries. You approach one such circle in the pre-dawn darkness, your footsteps soft on the dew-laden grass. The stones loom before you, weathered granite pillars that have stood for over 4,000 years, their surfaces bearing the patient marks of countless seasons. As you step across the threshold into the circle's heart, something shifts in the quality of the air around you, a subtle change that speaks not to your ears, but to some deeper sense that modern life has taught you to ignore. Modern dowsers arrive. At these sites with their copper rods and pendulums, instruments that respond to forces science struggles to measure. They walk the perimeter of the circle, watching as their tools react to invisible currents flowing beneath the earth. Ground-penetrating radar reveals underground streams converging at these locations, creating natural electromagnetic fields that pulse with rhythms eerily similar to the human brain's theta waves, the frequencies associated with deep meditation and healing states. You settle yourself at the circle's center, feeling the cool stone beneath your back as you lie flat against the earth. The silence here is not empty but full, pregnant with a presence that thousands of years of human ceremony has somehow embedded in the very atoms of this place. Archaeological evidence shows that these sites were used continuously for healing. Rituals spanning millennia, from the Celtic druids who conducted their most sacred ceremonies here, to the Christian hermits who built their cells nearby, drawn by something they could feel but could not name. The Earth's magnetic field shows distinct anomalies at these locations, concentrations and fluctuations that create what geophysicists call magnetic anomalies, but offer no explanation for. Why ancient peoples could detect these invisible forces without instruments. Visitors report experiences that science cannot quantify, a deep sense of peace that settles over them like a warm blanket, chronic pain that diminishes or disappears entirely during their stay within the circle, and dreams of unusual vividness and clarity for weeks after their visit. As the first light of dawn touches the standing stones, you feel a gentle warmth spreading through your body, starting from the points where you touch the earth and radiating outward through your limbs. This is not the warmth of the rising sun. The air remains cool, but something that seems to emerge from the ground itself, as if the stone circle serves as a conduit for energies that flow deep beneath the surface of our everyday awareness. Orbis, Celtic peoples who built these circles understood something about the relationship between consciousness and place that we are only beginning to rediscover. They recognized that certain locations on the earth serve as natural healing chambers, places where the subtle energies that surround us all the time become concentrated and accessible. The stones were not placed randomly, but positioned according to principles that modern dowsers still use today, principles that allow them to detect underground water flows, mineral deposits, and electromagnetic fields using nothing more than their own sensitivity to forces that conventional physics acknowledges but cannot fully explain. You rise slowly from your resting place at the circle's heart, feeling refreshed in a way that goes deeper than physical rest. The sun now fully illuminates the ancient stones, and you can see carved spirals and cup marks on their surfaces, symbols that appear at similar sites across Europe, suggesting a shared understanding of the forces that these circles were designed to harness. These markings are not random decorations but precise maps of energy flows, templates for conducting ceremonies that could tap into the Earth's subtle currents. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, you understand that the healing attributed to these sites comes not from supernatural forces but from natural ones that we have simply forgotten how to perceive. The stones stand as reminders of a time when human beings lived in closer harmony with the subtle energies that surround us, when the boundary between the physical and the metaphysical was recognized as a permeable membrane rather than an impenetrable wall. In the vast silence of the Arctic night, where temperatures plunge far below the threshold of human survival and darkness reigns for months at a time, the sky becomes a canvas for one of nature's most spectacular displays. The Aurora Borealis, northern lights, dance across the heavens in curtains of green, gold and violet that ripple and flow like living things. For the Inuit peoples who have called this harsh landscape home for thousands of years, these lights are not merely beautiful phenomena to be admired, but active participants in ceremonies that connect the human world with the realm of spirits. You stand on the frozen tundra, your breath forming crystals in the -40 air, waiting for the lights to begin their ancient dance. The shamans of the far north have gathered here for a ceremony that their ancestors performed for countless generations, a ritual that modern science observes with fascination but cannot fully explain. The aurora appears on schedule, as if responding to some invisible summons, beginning as a faint green glow on the northern horizon before erupting into its spectacular display that fills half the sky. The shamans begin their chanting, voices carrying across the empty landscape in harmonies that seem to mirror the flowing patterns of light above. Their songs are not random vocalizations but carefully structured compositions passed down through oral tradition, each note and rhythm precisely calibrated to match what they believe are the natural frequencies of the aurora itself. As their voices rise and fall in ancient melodies, the lights appear to respond, brightening and shifting in patterns that coincide with the peaks and valleys of the shamanic songs. Modern science understands the physical mechanism behind the aurora-charged particles from the sun interacting with Earth's magnetic field, creating electromagnetic displays at altitudes of 60 to 600 miles above the surface. What science cannot explain is why these displays sometimes appear to respond to human activity, why the aurora occasionally manifests in colors and patterns that do not match the predicted solar wind conditions, and why experienced shamans can sometimes predict the appearance of unusual aurora displays days or weeks in advance. The Inuit shamans speak of the aurora as the spirits of the ancestors playing in the sky, engaging in games and dances that mirror the activities of the living world below. They believe that through proper ceremony and song, the living can communicate with these ancestor spirits, receiving guidance, healing, and knowledge about events occurring in distant places. Archaeological evidence suggests that similar aurora ceremonies were conducted by circumpolar peoples across Siberia, Alaska, northern Canada, and Greenland, indicating a shared understanding of the aurora that transcended cultural and linguistic boundaries. As the ceremony continues, you witness phenomena that challenge conventional understanding of the aurora's behavior. The lights seem to pulse in rhythm with the shamanic drumming, changing color precisely when the lead shaman raises his voice in particular vocal patterns. Most remarkably, the aurora appears to form shapes that correspond to the shaman's gestures, spirals when they move their arms in circular motions, straight lines when they point towards specific stars, and complex geometric patterns when they perform ritualized dances that have been preserved unchanged for centuries. The shamans explain that their ancestors learned these ceremonies through direct communication with the aurora itself, receiving the songs and dances in visions during periods of prolonged fasting and exposure to the Arctic elements. They describe a state of consciousness in which the boundary between the observer and the observed dissolves, allowing human awareness to merge temporarily with the electromagnetic patterns that create the lights. In this state, they claim, the aurora becomes a form of communication technology, a way of sending and receiving information across vast distances through the Earth's magnetic field. Recent research in neuroscience has discovered that the human brain contains magnetite crystals, the same mineral that allows migratory animals to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. Some researchers speculate that these biological compasses might allow certain individuals to perceive electromagnetic phenomena that most people cannot detect, potentially explaining how shamans could develop such intimate relationships with aurora displays that depend on magnetic field fluctuations. The ceremony reaches its climax as the shamans perform a dance that mirrors the flowing movements of the lights above. Their movements are not random, but follow precise patterns that correspond to traditional maps of the aurora's most common formations. As they dance, the lights seem to intensify, creating displays of unusual complexity and duration that continue long after the solar conditions that triggered them should have subsided. As the aurora finally fades with the approach of dawn, you understand that you have witnessed more than a beautiful natural phenomenon. You have observed a form of communication between human consciousness and the electromagnetic forces that surround our planet, a dialogue that indigenous peoples maintained for thousands of years before the modern world taught us to see the aurora as nothing more than a pretty light show. The ceremony ends, but the memory of this connection between earth and sky, between human intention and cosmic forces, remains with you as a reminder that the universe is far more responsive to consciousness than we have been taught to believe. At the bottom of the world, beneath miles of ice that have accumulated over millions of years, Antarctica holds secrets that challenge our understanding of Earth's history and the timeline of human civilization. This frozen continent, larger than the United States and Mexico combined, appears to be a pristine wilderness untouched by human activity, yet ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery reveal structures beneath the ice that appear distinctly artificial, geometric formations that suggest the presence of constructed features in a land that supposedly never hosted human habitation. You stand on the Ross ice shelf, surrounded by an expanse of white that stretches beyond the horizon in every direction. The silence here is absolute, broken only by the occasional crack and groan of the ice as it shifts under its own immense weight. The temperature hovers at -30 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind carries ice crystals that sting your exposed skin like tiny needles. Yet beneath your feet, according to the most advanced imaging technology available, lie anomalies that may rewrite the history of human civilization. The discoveries began with Operation High Jump in 1947, when Admiral Richard Byrd's expedition photographed the continent from the air and reported geometric patterns visible through the ice in certain locations. These initial observations were dismissed as natural formations, the result of geological processes that could create regular patterns through the random action of ice, wind, and time. However, subsequent expeditions equipped with increasingly sophisticated instruments have revealed features that are difficult to explain through natural processes alone. Ground-penetrating radar can see through the ice to the bedrock below, creating three-dimensional maps of the continent's hidden topography. These maps reveal linear features that run for dozens of miles in perfectly straight lines, intersecting at right angles to form grid patterns that resemble urban layouts. There are circular formations of consistent size and spacing, arranged in patterns that suggest deliberate planning rather than random geological activity. Most intriguingly, there are what appear to be stepped structures, pyramidal formations that rise from the bedrock in regular geometric progressions. The ice core data tells us that Antarctica was not always frozen. During certain periods in Earth's distant past, the continent enjoyed a temperate climate that could have supported plant and animal life. The question that haunts researchers is whether it could also have supported human life or something resembling human civilization during these warmer periods. The structures beneath the ice appear to date from times when the continent was ice-free, suggesting that they were built and then slowly buried as the climate changed and the ice sheets advanced. You make your way to one of the research stations, where scientists monitor the anomalies using seismic equipment and satellite data. The researchers speak in hushed tones about features that appear and disappear on their instruments, structures that seem to shift position slightly over time, as if they were not completely solid or were somehow moving beneath the ice. Some of the anomalies produce electromagnetic signatures that do not match known geological formations, generating low-frequency signals that pulse in regular patterns reminiscent of artificial transmissions. The most puzzling discoveries are the thermal anomalies, areas where the ice is measurably warmer than the surrounding regions, suggesting heat sources deep beneath the surface. While geothermal activity could explain some of these warm spots, many occur in locations where there is no known volcanic or tectonic activity. The heat signatures form patterns that mirror the geometric structures detected by radar, as if whatever lies beneath the ice is still generating energy after countless millennia of burial. Indigenous legends from South America speak of a great civilization that existed at the southern end of the world before the ice came, a people who possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and mathematics. These stories, preserved in the oral traditions of peoples who lived thousands of miles from Antarctica, describe survivors fleeing north as their homeland was consumed by advancing glaciers. While such legends might be dismissed as mythology, they gain new significance in light of the physical evidence emerging from beneath the Antarctic ice. The isolation and extreme conditions of Antarctica mean that any serious investigation of these anomalies would require resources and technology beyond what current research budgets can support. The ice is too thick for conventional drilling, the structures too deep for excavation, and the climate too harsh for extended exploration. The secrets beneath the ice remain protected by the same forces that may have preserved them, the brutal cold and crushing weight of the polar ice cap. As you prepare to leave this frozen wilderness, you carry with you the knowledge that our planet holds mysteries we have barely begun to explore. The structures beneath the Antarctic ice represent either the most remarkable examples of natural geological formation ever discovered, or evidence of human activity in places and times that would fundamentally alter our understanding of civilization's true age and extent. Until technology advances enough to allow direct exploration of these buried features, they remain tantalizing hints of a past that may be far stranger and more complex than our current history acknowledges. In the heart of the Peruvian desert, where rain falls perhaps once in a decade, and the sun beats down with relentless intensity, lines stretch across the landscape with such precision and scale that they can only be fully appreciated from high above the earth. The Nazca lines represent one of the most enigmatic achievements of the ancient world. Geoglyphs so vast and numerous that they cover nearly 200 square miles of desert floor, created by a people who, according to conventional archaeology, never developed the technology for flight. You stand at the edge of the Nazca Plateau as the sun rises over the Andes, casting long shadows that briefly reveal the subtle outlines of figures carved into the desert floor. From ground level, the lines appear as nothing more than shallow trenches scraped in the hardpan, filled with stones slightly darker than the surrounding earth. But from the small aircraft that circles overhead, these simple scratches transform into complex images: hummingbirds with wingspans of over 300 feet, spiders drawn with such anatomical accuracy that they can be identified to species, geometric patterns that extend for miles across the pampa with mathematical precision that rivals modern surveying techniques. The mystery deepens when you consider the sheer scope of the undertaking. There are over 800 straight lines, some running perfectly parallel for miles without the slightest deviation, others converging at points with the precision of a surveyor's transit. There are 300 geometric figures, rectangles, trapezoids, triangles, and spirals that follow mathematical ratios found in advanced geometry. And there are 70 biomorphic figures depicting animals, plants, and humanoid forms rendered with an artistic sophistication that speaks of deep knowledge of the natural world. The Nazca people created these lines sometime between 500 BCE and 500 CE using the simplest possible technique, removing the dark surface stones to reveal the lighter soil beneath. The desert's extreme aridity has preserved these markings for over 1,000 years, protected by a climate so stable that some of the lines show no signs of erosion despite their age. Yet the precision of the work suggests the use of surveying techniques and planning methods that archaeologists insist were unknown to pre-Columbian peoples. You walk along one of the straight lines, following its course across the desert floor for several miles. The line maintains its direction with such accuracy that it deviates less than 2 meters over its entire 9-mile length, a feat that would challenge modern surveyors equipped with laser transits and GPS coordinates. The Nazca achieved this precision using only the tools available to a Stone Age civilization: wooden stakes, cotton cord, and careful observation of celestial landmarks. Some researchers believe the lines served as ceremonial pathways, routes followed during religious processions that connected sacred sites across the desert. The straight lines often terminate at natural features, distant mountain peaks, seasonal water sources, or areas where ancient settlements once stood. The animal figures may have been offerings to sky gods, images created to be seen by deities who were believed to dwell above the earth. This interpretation gains credibility from the fact that many of the figures can only be viewed in their entirety from altitudes of several hundred feet, suggesting they were indeed intended for aerial observation. The astronomical theory proposes that many of the lines serve as a massive calendar, marking the positions where the sun, moon, and stars rise and set at different times of the year. Computer analysis has confirmed that a significant percentage of the lines do align with celestial events, particularly the solstices and equinoxes that marked important agricultural and ceremonial periods in the Nazca calendar. The desert becomes a giant astronomical instrument, its lines serving as sightlines that allow observers to track the movement of celestial bodies with remarkable accuracy. Yet the most intriguing possibility is that the Nazca lines were created as messages, communications intended for beings capable of flight. The figures are drawn as if viewed from above, rendered in a perspective that assumes aerial observation. The straight lines extend beyond the horizon, pointing toward distant landmarks or celestial features that can only be appreciated from high altitude. The geometric patterns follow mathematical relationships that suggest knowledge of advanced concepts in mathematics and geometry. As you climb to an elevated position on the surrounding hills, more of the lines become visible, revealing the true scope of this ancient achievement. The entire plateau becomes a canvas covered with interconnected designs, a massive artwork that transforms the desert into something resembling a vast blueprint or technical diagram. The precision and scale of the work suggest planning and coordination that required generations to complete, a project that united the Nazca people in a common purpose that we can only guess at today. The preservation of the Nazca lines depends on the same extreme aridity that has protected them for a millennium. Climate change and increased rainfall threaten these ancient messages, while modern development encroaches on the edges of the protected area. Tourist flights that allow visitors to view the lines from above also contribute to their deterioration through engine emissions and the vibrations from low-flying aircraft. Standing in this vast gallery of ancient art, you understand that the Nazca lines represent more than just archaeological curiosities. They are expressions of a worldview that saw the earth and sky as interconnected realms, places where human activity could create lasting communication with forces beyond the terrestrial world. Whether these messages were intended for gods, ancestors, or visitors from distant places, they remain as testaments to human imagination and determination, reminders that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities that continue to challenge our assumptions about the past. The lines stretch away into the distance, disappearing into the shimmering heat haze that rises from the desert floor, carrying their secrets with them into the endless blue of the Peruvian sky. Perhaps these mysteries are not lost. Perhaps they are simply waiting for us to remember that the world is far stranger and more wonderful than our modern minds dare to imagine. In the spaces between what we know and what we feel, in the silence between the questions and their answers, the ancient wisdom continues to whisper. The standing stones of Celtic sacred sites still pulse with the earth's subtle energies, their healing properties as real today as they were 4,000 years ago. The Aurora continues to dance in response to shamanic songs, reminding us that consciousness and cosmos are more intimately connected than our science yet understands. Beneath the Antarctic ice, structures wait in frozen silence, holding secret of civilizations that may have flourished when the world was young and the climate was kind. And in the Peruvian desert, lines drawn by ancient hands continue to point toward horizons we have yet to explore. Messages written in the language of stone and sand for eyes that have learned to see beyond the boundaries of the ordinary world. These mysteries persist not as problems to be solved, but as doorways to be opened, invitations to expand our understanding of what it means to be human in a universe that operates according to principles we are only beginning to glimpse. The rituals that created these wonders were not primitive superstitions, but sophisticated technologies for accessing states of consciousness and natural energies that our civilization has forgotten how to perceive. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, carry with you the knowledge that mystery is not the enemy of understanding, but its deepest friend. The rituals continue in the quiet corners of the world where indigenous peoples still remember the old ways. The stones remember the songs that awakened them. The stars still sing their ancient melodies to those who know how to listen. In your dreams, you may find yourself walking among the circles of stone, feeling the earth's energy flowing through your feet. You may hear the shamanic songs carried on the Arctic wind, see the aurora responding to human intention with displays of impossible beauty. You may glimpse the structures sleeping beneath the ice or trace the lines that stretch across the desert toward destinations that exist beyond the reach of ordinary sight. These ancient mysteries remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, participants in a cosmic conversation that began long before human civilization and will continue long after our cities have crumbled to dust. The wisdom encoded in stone and star, in song and ceremony, waits patiently for us to remember that the boundary between the possible and impossible is far more permeable than we have been taught to believe. The rituals continue. The stones remember. The stars still sing their ancient songs. And somewhere, in the space between sleeping and waking, the answers wait for those who know how to listen with more than their ears, to see with more than their eyes, to touch the eternal mystery that connects all things in the vast web of existence. Sleep now, and dream of the wonders that wait beyond the edges of the known world, in the places where science meets magic, and ancient wisdom whispers the secrets that time has not erased.